we have guests. We won't have Pat because he's skiing in Idaho, I think, but with 4 of us here, we have a quorum, so we can get going, and Paul can join us. And I'm expecting, Susanna was flying in from Chicago today, so she thought she would be here. I did see a fire truck going up El Granada Boulevard for a medical emergency, so it's possible it could be blocking her path coming back down. But
It's not her address.
not her. I'm just gonna, so we will come to order at 7:04. And take roll. That was the first thing. Nancy Marsh here.
Fran Pollard.
Michelle Draghi here.
Richard Barker here.
Okay, and Paul and Susanna expected. Pat will definitely be absent. Public, we have members of the public who are here, an open comments period. If you would like to make any comments on anything not on the agenda. No speaker slips, so we'll move forward. I'm going to just switch number 1 and 2 on the agenda. If you haven't had a chance to look at the minutes, we'll give you that chance. But since we have a guest speaker, we have Julia, I'm not going to try to mangle your name, Julia Malmo-Laycock from County. Michelle suggested this agenda item, and I should say, anytime anybody has an agenda item to suggest, please do so. We just need to know like 2 weeks before a meeting, because it takes that long to get through all of the processes to get the agenda and packet done. But I haven't always sourced from PAC what to put on the agenda, so everybody's welcome to do it.
I originally saw the thing on video on the MCC.
Yeah,
Thanks, Steve, for recording.
So, but it seemed because of the topic is active and getting people active, biking and walking and so on, it seemed like something that would be just good informative for us as well. So I'll invite Julia to show us your plan. Here's Paul.
So I don't have a clicker. Do I need to, shall I stand in front of the mic, or is it if I project? How about you all tell me?
Can you hear her if I
I
turn
can
the
hear
mic
you
that
just
way?
fine.
Yeah.
I can hear her.
But you need to record from that mic.
Or you can just take the mic.
Just move that whole thing.
She has to be near the laptop.
Yep.
Okay, a lesson in the tools I need to bring to future meetings. So, yeah.
We just opened up.
Great. So my name is Julia Malmo-Laycock. I'm with the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability over in Redwood City. And among the things that the Office of Sustainability works on is active transportation. And active transportation just refers to walking and biking as modes of transportation alternative to the car or to the bus. So today, the objective is to give you all some background about the active transportation plan for unincorporated San Mateo County that we are developing in conjunction with the Department of Public Works. And also let you know about some future opportunities for input. We're at a really exciting time in the project where pretty soon we're going to be asking for community input on our draft recommendations. And so I'm really glad that Michelle invited me to come today and came up with this idea. It would be great for you all as representatives of the community to give us your feedback on the recommendations and also to help us get the word out about the input that we are soliciting from folks. So I'll give a quick project recap and explain some of the work that's been done to date, and then give you sort of a taste of what the draft recommendations will be, and then review the upcoming activities and next steps. So the objectives of this plan include identifying a complete and connected bicycle network for people of all ages and abilities, addressing pedestrian safety and barriers to walking, coordinating with ongoing projects like Connect the Coast and other projects that DPW has going on, making sure that this document really acts as our sort of guiding framework for the improvements that the community envisions in terms of active transportation in unincorporated San Mateo County. Coming up with a list of grant competitive priority projects. And what I mean by that is that, unfortunately, the money isn't just lying around for us to make these improvements right away. And so one of the big implementation steps will be our office writing grant proposals for, to ask for the state for money to make these improvements. And so coming up with a list of priority projects that we can apply for grants for, and of course addressing equity and inclusion throughout the process. Are we reaching out to everybody? Are we making sure that folks that traditionally have been underserved, folks that maybe have to walk and bike because they don't have access to a vehicle or because Samtrans routes aren't serving them, focusing on those areas and making sure that this plan addresses their needs. So we kicked off last spring, and that we started off with the review of existing conditions. We gathered the TAC is the Technical Advisory Committee, and that's just gathering county representatives from county departments, Public Works, Planning, the County Office of Education, a variety of commissions. So the TAC kind of helps us gather our thoughts in terms of priorities and sort of what's possible in the realm of the county. In the summer and fall, we kicked off our sort of first phase of community outreach, and I'll speak more to that later on, but it really was getting at what are people's vision in terms of walking and biking in unincorporated San Mateo County, what are their priorities, where are places they would like to walk and bike but they don't feel safe, or places that they do like and facilities we should recreate elsewhere. In the summer and the fall, our project consultant, their tool design group, they're a bicycle and pedestrian planning firm, they started their sort of back-end analysis, looking at where is their demand for walking and biking based on, are there schools in the area, are there, is there a mix of land uses, or are there destinations that would warrant, a walking or bicycling route. And now, we took that input from our first phase of outreach, as well as the outputs from those variety of analyses, and we've developed these draft recommendations, that's what we're going back to the community on now to solicit feedback. Once we have that, we will be, well, I suppose I'll save that for the next steps. But yeah, that's where we are now, winter 2020, and I will go into some of the work that has been completed to date. So as I mentioned, we did an existing conditions analysis, looking at where are their facilities currently, what is the mode share, in other words, how many people are walking and biking currently, how can we improve on that. We did some in-person walking and biking tours with members of that technical advisory committee, so people from planning and public works, and we went out and actually cycled some of the routes and walked some of the routes ourselves. It really helps to identify where are the issues on the ground. As I mentioned, we did that first phase of outreach. We had, I think it was more than 5 actually pop-up events, so tabling events at existing community happenings. We hosted 2 sort of more formal workshops. We had an interactive web map where folks could say, click on something and write a comment and say, this road I find particularly scary on a bicycle, or this place is missing a sidewalk. And we also had a survey that was available online. We did those gap and demand analyses. The consultant was the one leading those efforts, and now we're at this recommendations phase. So when we looked at existing conditions, we looked at things like what are the current travel patterns, where are the existing facilities. We looked at counts. Every year our office leads a county-wide bicycle and pedestrian count, and we ask for the help of volunteers to go to certain intersections and count how many people are walking and biking, and then that gives us sort of year-over-year data to see where, places, whether walking and biking is increasing in the county. We also looked at collision hotspots, so you can access, it's publicly available data, where have there been walking and biking collisions, and that allows us to really zero in on places that might be unsafe, if there are lots of collisions in one area. Countywide, most people drive for their commute. That's the sort of, on the left-hand side of that pie chart, the darkest color. It's 81% of, these are commute trips. This is the big caveat with this data, is that it doesn't represent going to pick up your kids from school, going to the grocery store, going to the park, all of these other trips that one makes, during one's day. However, the pie chart on the right indicates the length of folks' commutes, and I think, it's 33% are 25 to 44 minutes, 38% are only between 10 and 24 minutes, and then a further 9% are less than 10 minutes. And so those three categories represent sort of, not necessarily walkable, but some bikeable distances where we might be able to, if there are proper facilities and education and encouragement, we could provide an alternative to driving.
That's countywide.
That's countywide.
Is it just the unincorporated areas of the county, or is it the whole county?
I believe this is just unincorporated county. But I will double check that.
Yeah, because that changes for a lot of the higher urban densities.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Make a note of that.
Well, the county is only in charge of the unincorporated. The cities do their own.
Yeah, I just don't know where the survey data came from.
Yeah, well, the pictures look like cities. Are they in the county, or one of them looked like San Francisco?
Yeah, I don't know the source of all of the photos. I know a lot of them are from unincorporated county. But I guess I will amend my answer to say that this is more than likely unincorporated county, just because it is possible to get that data through the census, and it's quite easy to get that at the sort of disaggregate.
It looks like it because the commutes are kind of long. But you
Yeah.
but you would consider anything under a 45-minute car commute as a potential bike commute?
Well, anything under maybe 24 minutes. Yeah, I think 25 to 44 is in the realm of, that's a slog on a bike.
Well, depends on the traffic.
Yeah.
Depends on the traffic, depends who you are, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And none of your road shows were in any of the major cities other than East Palo Alto, so one has to presume that this is all unincorporated.
Yeah, I'm quite certain that this data is for unincorporated county, but I will get back to you on that, just to circle back. So the first phase of community engagement, as I mentioned, we held some road shows, we held 2 formal workshops, and then we had the website and the survey. The first road show that we held was at the Half Moon Bay Coastal Wildflower and Earth Day Festival, and that's unincorporated county adjacent. We recognize that it's not in unincorporated county, but we did receive a lot of comments from folks that said that they lived in unincorporated county. We heard at this roadshow a lot of comments about crossings of Highway 1, which likely isn't a surprise to you all, as well as a lot of enthusiasm for trails, which we understood as a preference for what we would refer to as like a low-stress biking facility, something that's not directly, right beside a vehicular travel lane, but rather like the coastal trail, something that's separate from vehicle traffic and that, kids can feel safe on, and that's, this all ages and abilities sort of facility.
Is that a soft surface or a soft surface trails, or?
Typically that would be a paved
Okay.
surface, for it to be truly accessible,
Okay.
yeah. So we held 2 workshops as well, and one of those was in Princeton. And what we heard there, again, was that it can be difficult to walk and bike along Highway 1. It's often difficult to bike on the coast due to a lack of infrastructure that allows it, safe facilities, and high vehicle speeds, and sometimes a lack of biking and walking culture.
That would seem the least common to me.
Yeah.
What?
Lack of culture.
No,
Biking and walking.
I think we have a lot of, if you go out down the coastal trail any day of the week, there are lots of walking and biking people
On the
it.
coastal trail.
And if you go on a
Recreational.
weekday,
Right.
then you're seeing the locals?
Yes.
You can't really use the coastal trail to commute, though.
No. Well, a lot of people
Well,
do
I
from
do.
Princeton to Half Moon Bay.
If you abide by the speed limit, it doesn't really work out. Most commuters are riding more than 15 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Commuters.
and, yeah.
Yeah.
We also heard
Didn't know
from,
there was a speed limit.
Oh, yeah, I've gotten a ticket.
On the coastal trail.
Yes.
Who would be most likely to get a
Yes.
ticket on the coastal trail?
Jeff.
we also heard from some folks that neighborhood traffic calming was desired to make the neighborhood streets safer, especially given the cut-through traffic that sometimes people can fly through neighborhood streets, which isn't the most desirable for those that are on foot or on a bike.
And so that's on the, like the coastal communities like El Granada and Moss Beach, Montera,
Yeah,
those areas?
exactly.
Or traffic diverts onto Avenue Alhambra?
Oh, of
Because
course,
Highway 1
yeah,
is slow.
yeah. I had it come up in Francisco for some reason.
Lost. They
Yeah,
must have been
there'll
lost.
be like a line on a really bad day.
They all go past my house.
Yeah, they'll all go past here.
Everyone stops at my house.
So, as I said earlier, we are now in the phase where we're coming up with draft recommendations based on what we've heard from the community and those analyses that the project consultant has conducted. So the first sort of component of these draft recommendations are recommended policy and program topics. And these policy and program areas are they're really inward-looking in terms of how can we change the way we operate in county government to make biking and walking easier. And this is aside from infrastructure changes. You know, on the one hand, there's infrastructure, okay, let's build a bike lane here. And on the other hand, there's how can we change the way we work? You know, how can we come up with a viable, for example, active transportation funding strategy? How, you know, let's make sure that we know how we're gonna fund all of these improvements. Or, can we make sure that we have actual guidelines in terms of access to trails, access to parks, you know, or developing wayfinding programs so that people know where they are when they're on a bike or on foot. Education and enforcement is something that can be done really in partnership with community organizations and community members, you know, holding bike rodeos, working with schools to teach kids about bike safety or, you know, safe routes to school audits, that sort of thing. And then some additional kind of program areas might be coming up with things like a rapid implementation or a pilot strategy. So before we invested, $4 million in however many miles of protected bike lanes, like let's make sure that it works using plastic and paint beforehand to show people this is how it would look, this is how it would feel, and so that vehicles, we can see what are the actual effects on traffic, because that's a concern, obviously, as well. So these are some of the recommended policy and program topic areas. And, I would welcome additional suggestions from you all in terms of things that you'd like to see us think about. I can circulate sort of a longer list of these to you all later on, if that's desirable.
Julia, there's two things that
Yeah.
came to mind one is that for the bicyclists who are kind of the long haul bicyclists coming down Highway 1, there's a hostel at Moss Beach, Lighthouse, and I think a lot of the people on long-term bicycle trips stay at that hostel. So it might be just a place for you to gather information on.
Yeah.
I believe, Nancy, that hostel has been sold and it's closed.
Is it?
Oh,
I
really?
had not heard that.
The closest one is Pigeon Point.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
When was that?
Well, the other
And they-
one in unincorporated county is at Pigeon Point.
Well, there's also free bike camping at Kelly State Beach.
Oh, I see.
Yes. If you hike there or bike there, you can get one day, I believe it's free of charge at the state park, and a lot of bike packers, as they are called, or tours, will use that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have friends from the East Bay that will ride over on the East Bay and stay over there and go down to Santa Cruz and vice versa.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
The other small infrastructure thing that came to mind is where you need bike racks, basically, if you're, you know, particularly not for commuters, but
Yeah.
for leisure riders, like they're going to Surfers Beach.
Right.
There's no place to lock up your bike. So there are places along the coastal trail where it might make sense to have
Okay.
Yep.
have bike racks.
They've implemented the bike stations with the tools and the things of that
Yeah,
nature, which are very handy.
Very helpful,
Mhm.
yeah.
A question regarding the coast side specifically, it
Yeah.
seems like it's actually quite an easy thing for you guys since we're such a north-south town. And the corridor, the trails are getting built out, and we're having a couple connections that'll come to fruition soon. Is there any, like, Samtrans or anything, like, for the people that do live, like, way up in the hills?
Yeah.
That last mile really hinders a lot of people for the elevation-wise that aren't willing. I have friends that live up the top of the hill, they'll drive to the bottom here, leave their car, and then ride to town
Right.
on weekend, because they
Yeah.
don't want to do the Highlands,
Yeah.
or, you know, so. Is there something that you guys are working with Samtrans on, more bike racks on the buses?
Oh, on buses?
Well, buses, I mean, you can't
Yeah.
always, you can't always be sure there's going to be a bike rack on your
No.
bus, and there's no way to know until
There
it's
isn't
too late.
Until it's too late.
Until you're
then the
standing
next
there
And
bus is
waiting.
in an
I've tried to
hour.
get on a bus and it was full, and then I tried to take my bike on the bus, and they were like, no. So I was,
That might be another good place for bike racks, is at
Well-
the bus stops.
well, yes,
Yeah.
but you need your
Or
bike
on the
on the
bus.
other
Oh,
end.
you're right, yeah.
And you need that with you.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the opposite to the problem I was thinking of.
Yes.
It's definitely something that we can work with Samtrans on. I'm forgetting whether their buses accommodate 2 bikes or
Two.
whether it's more. I mean, I've seen bike racks on buses that hold 3.
They make them up to 5 or 6,
Right.
but it's not always the same.
It's not,
And
yeah.
it's not posted on their schedules.
Yeah, that's a good example of coordination that we can
Mm-hmm.
do with another agency. Ultimately, we don't have control, but it's something that we can, you know, especially if we were to say to other cities, hey, do you also agree with this? And let's lobby Samtrans to look at this, because I agree, I think that'd be great. And the bike racks is absolutely something that we're looking at. I think, yeah, I'm trying to think of who the jurisdiction would be at Surfers Beach.
Either Harbor District or the city.
Right.
It's Harbor District and city that own
The
that
city
cherry
owns
stem.
the garbage can and half of the walkway.
Okay.
So depending on which side you put it on?
Pretty much, pretty much. And then Caltrans owns from the middle of the sidewalk to the middle of the road.
Hmm.
And then the harbor owns the parking lot down there and the bathrooms that they're gonna be building down there right at the jetty and then sort of like the armpit of the jetty.
Okay.
So maybe the Harbor District could do bike racks by that bathroom.
I think they might be planning them already.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
It seems like that it would be a good idea to have bike racks in front of a lot of the different businesses where people
Yeah.
would like to stop and have lunch.
Mhm.
You know, but,
Yeah.
you know, that would be asking the business owners to put in bike racks.
And that's the bike culture thing. That's the building of the bike culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not always, it doesn't always have to be the businesses that would do that. You know, there are opportunities for us to put bike racks in the public right of way. For example, if a sidewalk is wide enough, you could do it so that it's parallel to the sidewalk, just one of those U-locks, and then it doesn't take up a ton of space. You want to make sure that there's still access for pedestrians, of course.
And
Um,
the traditional bike rack that's really big that you see at a school usually isn't necessary. You can usually just do the one that'll hold like 2 or 3 bikes. 'Cause
Sure.
it's not that common that you get like a whole 20, 30 bikes like at the grade schools or whatever. Usually it's just like 3 or 4 at the most.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing a beer tour with them.
Well, unless our cycling club shows up, but those guys don't even bring locks. They just throw their bikes.
Great, yeah, we'll make sure to look at bike racks. That would be in conjunction with the planning department as they develop ordinances on this type of thing, which I know that they're doing as they look at rezonings. So that's all really great feedback, thank you.
There's also a movement for parklets.
Mhm.
You know what parklets are?
Yes.
It's where they take a couple of parking spaces and they make a park.
Yeah.
Doing one at Half Moon Bay on Main Street as an experiment.
Okay.
But the parklets are a little difficult to put bike racks on because it's exposed to the traffic.
Mhm.
So, but people are gonna be there and there should be some sort of, wherever there's a parklet, there should be bike racks nearby.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So, moving on to the bicycle facilities, this slide is really just for context and it sort of gives a background. as to how we select what type of bike lane is appropriate given the conditions on the roadway. And so on the left-hand side, in the urban and suburban areas, which, you know, downtown El Granada, downtown we would consider that, for the purposes of this diagram, urban and suburban, just given the volume of vehicles that it would see like at a typical peak time. And so as vehicle volume and speeds increase, so does the need for physical separation from vehicles.
Mhm.
Because if they're, you know, flying by and there are a lot of them, then you want to make sure that, so that it's accessible for all ages and abilities, you've got some protection. So this just sort of shows the rationale for the facility selection. This is from the Federal Highway Administration, so it's been, you know, vetted by them and by the state as well. So it differs a little bit in rural areas, and so, you know, Highway 92 might be a good example, where you're really not expecting someone to take their 3-year-old on a bike up 92, but, you know, there may be people that are trying to cycle that area, and in that case,
Yes, there are.
a paved shoulder is the appropriate facility, and as volumes and speeds increase, so does the desired width of that paved shoulder. So that's a little bit, you know, background in terms of the bicycle facility selection. I don't yet have the proposed bicycle network to show you all, but we will, hopefully by mid to late February, and that's, you know, what we're gonna be showing to community members. And so as soon as I have that, I can email it to you all. We'll have an interactive map online where you can provide comments and say, I like this, I don't like this, have you considered this, what about moving this bike lane over here? And so here are some guiding questions for you all, is when you take a look at this, are there projects or locations that should be higher priorities for the county to implement? What's missing based on where you ride or want to ride? And then are there any network gaps that we haven't addressed? And by network gap, we really just mean, say you're riding along, you're trying to go to a destination, but there are bike lanes missing when you're en route to that destination. So if we miss anything, please do let us know. And
When is that?
this should be available mid-February. I'll make sure to include you all on an
Great.
email once that's ready.
Well, I have a question. Is
Yeah.
this in coordination with the parallel trail? It's been in discussion for 20 years now.
Yeah, the parallel trail has been funded,
That's
and they're
what that-
hoping to start
what's-
that. Yeah.
I think it's been funded up to Capistrano, up to Coronado.
So
Right,
so
yeah,
you're
that's
doing
like
the same thing, I mean, the same trail.
Yeah, I mean, the idea would be to propose something that would continue, a continuation of that, because of course that's just one segment of the trail.
I mean, I think I see it, see that green line and it
Mm-hmm,
goes over the border there with Half Moon Bay?
yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that the highway?
Yep.
The
Yeah.
dashed.
Because they talked
Yeah, it
about
goes
it,
in down to the sea and county.
Mhm.
I think they talked about it,
Right.
instead of just following the highway, it was gonna go up by El Granada School,
There would be,
that way.
there's
Yeah.
a spur up to El Granada School.
Right.
But there is a proposal to take it all the way to Montera. I think it's just
Yeah.
between El Granada and Montera. It's not yet funded, if I have that right.
It's not.
Yeah, that would be nice.
The
Yeah,
92
I mean,
one
kids
is
in
the one I'm
Montera
interested
could
in.
ride to the high
Yeah.
school
Okay.
on a
I
trail.
commute to Palo Alto
That's
via
a
bike,
tough ride.
and I ride
And
all
then
the way
wind,
south
like,
now to
Yeah.
Throws you into the
Right.
traffic.
Tenitas Creek, Higgins
Yeah,
Canyon,
to get up there.
and that is a slog.
Yeah.
That's
Plus
the
another
best thing.
1,300 feet of elevation.
Right.
Only do
Oh, yeah.
I never ride.
Headwinds are no
I
longer an
work in
issue.
Foster
Yeah.
City now, and I will ride north to Montera, go all the way
It's
around
really
to
easy to
Foster
smile.
City,
Wow,
which is,
enjoy
I
the
mean,
ride.
this
Yeah.
isn't a practical commute, I do it for fun.
Much
but
more
it's-
pleasant.
It's insane.
Yeah.
If I could ride, if there was a trail over 92, it'd be great.
Yeah.
I can make it to work in 40 minutes.
So I will just note that these recommendations, they reflect that bicycle facility selection guide that we looked at in the last slide. They also reflect what's there on the ground now, planned and or funded projects, so the mid-coast, the parallel trail is a great example of that, as well as the Connect the Coast side, which the idea is for the two plans to be consistent with one another. So we're working with the planning department to make sure that that's the case.
So,
As well as other things like the Caltrans District 4 bike plan and existing and planned facilities in adjacent jurisdictions. So what is it the Half Moon Bay has planned that we can connect to make sure that if people don't register, that they're crossing the county line into Half Moon Bay, nor should they have to.
So I know this isn't like obviously a draft or anything, but
Yeah.
would the area between like the tunnel and Pacifica, would that be Caltrans, or would that be also part of this program? Is it, because that is a bad.
It's in incorporated county, but
You
that's
mean where Gray Whale Cove?
Devil's Slide. Great.
Actually, yeah,
North from
but even
there.
north of
Okay.
there to the,
You mean going
Yeah.
through the tunnel?
is that actually in the city of Pacifica?
from the tunnel to Lindemar in
Yeah.
Pacifica is another dangerous road.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
bad.
that one's horrible.
It's about a foot and a half.
I just didn't know if that, I mean, obviously you're not,
I think that's
That's
part
not
of
the purpose of
in the
this
Connect to
presentation,
Coast
is to-
program, I believe.
Yeah, and so that also might be addressed by the Pedro Point project. Are you all aware of that connects Pacifica to?
Yeah. I'm not sure that that's a hard surface trail though, at this point.
Yeah,
Is that all over Maury Point?
Yeah, there's some switchbacks they put in, come down behind the ace there
Right.
that they're making actually really nice. But
yeah. I'm not
Let's do
entirely sure what, because I know that they just wrapped up their kind of first round of outreach, and
Jim was working.
there's some tension between, do we want to choose a path that is ADA accessible, that, you know, you could ride in a wheelchair, that's paved,
Yeah.
that would also require switchbacks going like this because of the grade, because of how steep it is, and the removal of a lot of trees versus, you
A
know, do we
natural.
want to, like a natural path that you might see more hikers and mountain bikers on, so,
there's different uses there.
sure, yeah. But I'll make a note of the area between
It exists now.
the tunnel to Lindemar.
okay, yeah, I know that's, because you see
That
the
trailing-
long distance packers with the
Yep.
stuff, their bags on the sides and
They go up
commuter
that,
traffic going both
Yep.
ways, I've had some close calls,
I've ridden, it's horrible.
yeah.
Okay.
I prefer to ride 92 in that one, and there's tons of traffic. Sunny Saturday weekend, because I'm going faster in the cars. It's when there's no traffic, you have a problem, because then
Yeah.
people are doing 60 miles an hour.
But it's so dangerous because there's spots where there's hardly any place to ride your bike. What do you do?
I pass all the cars,
So
because
when
they're
they
sitting
were
still in
doing
traffic.
Well,
The
when
tunnel?
when the cars are moving,
You take the whole lane. You take the
just
lane.
get in front of the
You
cars.
take the lane. It's
I
your
saw a
lane.
guy on a unicycle.
Wow,
Oh my
Yeah, when they're doing the tunnel construction.
It's scary when you come up to
On a
them.
unicycle,
yeah.
with a wheel this big.
And so don't even
God bless
encourage
them.
taking children on a bike.
No,
Oh my God, unless you're gonna widen that highway or that road to
Right.
do this.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think this discussion, it shows just how many improvements could be made to so many places, and that's where, you know, later on I'll talk about project prioritization, but there really is a lot that can be done, and so, and like I said, we'll have to apply for funding for a lot of these projects, so,
And I'm sure the ones we've mentioned aren't top secret. I'm sure other people,
yes.
you know, they're on your plan. I
Yeah.
can almost guarantee you all these pinch points are on your plan.
Good stuff. So we've talked a lot about bike improvements and bike facilities. In terms of pedestrian improvements, the approach that we've taken is we've identified 11 kind of pedestrian focus areas, we're calling them. And those will have little maps for each focus area. And what we've done is gone out and visited those locations, and based on what we see on the ground, here are some potential improvements that can be made to make pedestrian access better. And because those 11 locations obviously don't, you know, we couldn't go to every street corner in the county and say, here's what we need to do in terms of pedestrian improvements, but we will be coming up with pedestrian design guidance for different areas in the county. What we're gonna propose out here will be very different from what, you know, and address very different needs from what we'd like to see in North Fair Oaks. And so that's the approach for the pedestrian recommendations. Here's a map of some of the locations. So downtown El Granada is on there, as well as downtown Montara and the Mavericks House Event Center in Princeton. So that's another, we'll be sharing these with you all for your feedback as well.
So Mavericks Event Center is the least of your problems when it comes to Princeton, Capistrano.
Okay.
They have,
That's your neighborhood.
yeah. If you want to go, I live in the outer harbor, and if I want to walk into the inner harbor and cross Capistrano to get to either the old Princeton Landing, Seville, the brewery,
Yeah,
I have to walk like 150 yards towards the brewery and then come back to get a crosswalk. So
Okay.
there's
There's an intersection with
there's
no
an intersection
crosswalk
with
where
no-
it seems obvious.
And
for
there's a stop
crosswalk.
sign that people coming from Highway 1, going from north to south, that come off of Highway 1 as an exit, and they come down Capistrano, they're usually not from here, there's no stop sign. So they just go fast, and they don't realize they're getting
It's
into
a
really
25 mile an hour.
high traffic and
right.
25-mile thing. So there needs to be crosswalks at every intersection in Capistrano. There needs to be a crosswalk at the Maverick Center, four-way on all of these. And there needs to be a really funky, weird crosswalk at the Half Moon Bay Distillery. There's like 3 intersections there, and there's no way to get across the street unless you just like wave and hope.
Right.
Yeah, it's the streets are offset.
Yeah, the streets are offset. I sent a map to Chris Hunter,
Mhm.
who's Supervisor Horsley's aide, so
Yeah.
he knows that I'm on this, but he asked Joe Lococo of Public Works, and
Yeah.
Joe said, there's plenty of crosswalks, which is translated in as, we have to do a traffic study before we can put a crosswalk in. They need to do a traffic study before we put the crosswalks in,
Okay.
period.
I would like to add to that,
Sure.
Michelle, Main Street, there, as you're going south on Main, there are a number of different stop signs with no crosswalks. The only crosswalk, once you get past Costa Moon, is at Arnold.
Right, the senior center.
The senior
By the
center,
senior
right.
center,
A
and
main
because
in
there's a
Half Moon
school
Bay.
in the back there.
Yeah.
But every other stop sign has no crosswalk. And people are parking on both sides of the street. They live down on that side, on the left side, the east side, and we need
Yeah.
The
crosswalks.
California Driver's Handbook says any intersection like that is an implied crosswalk,
Sure.
but if people aren't looking for it,
Yeah.
it's like going up Isabella.
Mhm.
Every crossing there is an implied crosswalk.
So
Yeah, right.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
that I've got the right intersection. So Main Street and what's the intersection?
Arnold.
Okay.
So that's the good example.
Everything south of
That's
Arnold.
the good example, and everything else sucks.
Yeah.
Copy and paste.
Are you guys covering Half Moon Bay? Or is it,
No.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
the city.
'Cause I
So
think
that, I was going to ask, is that?
That's
Yeah,
city.
that's
That's
not
city.
Half Moon Bay.
Half Moon Bay doesn't need a lot of help with that, the bicycle.
I'm on the bicycle advisory committee for the city of Half Moon Bay, and they're working on it,
Yeah.
sort of.
Well,
Just a
you
little
have to
bit.
work
They're
on
working
some
on it.
crosswalks too.
Yeah, yeah, oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
And
pedestrian
it's
thing.
cheap.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm?
that ain't just
Crosswalks are a
cheap.
pedestrian thing.
Sure.
It's vital, it's vital.
No, it's not a
good.
bicycle.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
a-
yeah, right,
Yeah.
but I'm a pedestrian as
Walk,
well.
yeah.
I'm a walker
Yeah.
as well as a
It
biker.
could be a bicycle.
Right, it
If
can,
you- if you're-
by a school zone or
If the
whatever.
bike parking is on the other side of the street and you've got to get over
Right.
there.
You have to classify your user group of bikes, but like commuters tend to drive with cars, they don't use
Sure.
crosswalks or
Yeah.
ride on sidewalks. That's the kids going to school that do that sort of thing.
Yeah. Thank you for that feedback. So, upcoming activities and next steps, as I mentioned, we're gonna be going back to the community with these draft recommendations starting at the end of this month. We have one pop-up event that's confirmed, and when I say pop-up event, I mean it's just gonna be us with a table with our recommendations, intercepting people, while they go about their daily business at the post office and asking them to give us feedback on our recommendations. So, on the 29th, we'll be at the El Granada Post Office. And then we're also working with the Sheriff's Office to attend, an academy workshop at the Moonridge Apartments. We will be going to the MCC on the 26th of February. And on the 20th, the San Mateo County has a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, and they meet bi-monthly, so they'll be looking at the recommendations at their meeting on the 20th. we're gonna be posting all of this information on our website shortly. I know that there are a lot of events there that don't have dates, so I can, again, send an email to you all once we have everything confirmed. But I think, you know, for the purposes of the coast, the folks on the mid-coast, that El Granada Post Office tabling, that is confirmed. And if you have other ideas about events that we could attend or should attend, to reach out to people, that would be wonderful. We're planning on dropping flyers off with this information at a bunch of different places on the mid-coast. And so you can expect to see that around town soon.
What's your timeframe, Julia, on getting all of this in place?
Yes.
Implementing?
Yeah, well, the implementation timeline is another beast altogether. Can I get back to you?
Sure.
I'm gonna cover that in a couple of slides.
Oh, okay, absolutely.
Okay, great.
What do you hope to accomplish at Moon Ridge? Because they're in county, right?
Yes,
But for them to get to where they need to go along the highway, which is Half Moon Bay.
yeah, they do.
And then conversely, if they want to come from Half Moon Bay,
Mhm.
like, you know, Arleta Park area or Main Street,
Right.
and they want to get to the Ritz where they might work, there's no way to, I mean, you go on that bike trail, but it's like really dangerous. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like a little bike path that's on the side of the highway.
Right.
I go against the traffic on that bike trail because the coastal trail meets up with it.
Mm.
And I regularly see people texting and they're in my bike lane. They're in my bike lane and I have to get into the dirt. If I
Yeah.
was going the other way, I'd have my back to them.
Right.
So there needs to be something there. So when you're talking to Moonridge, maybe you can reach out to Bob Nisbet, who's
Half Moon
Half Moon
Bay.
Bay general manager, what do you call him? City manager,
Okay.
and watching too much football. And he's a biker himself, and
Mhm.
he's already done some pretty cool things in Half Moon Bay, but he's got a lot of connections and things like that. So it'd be a good conversation to have with him. Just mention my name.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, actually, bringing Half Moon Bay, if they're available, into that conversation. Because you're right, I mean, a lot of the routes that folks at the Moonridge Apartments would use are in Half Moon Bay. The street that they're on is unincorporated county until you get to the highway.
Yeah.
So there's that, but, yeah, I think it's
I mean, that's
a
more
great
of a
idea.
political thing. I mean, it's like Bob used to be Alameda Parks, and he made a phone call, and he literally closed the bay to Ocean Trail.
Mm.
Because there's a part from Johnston House to Highway 1,
Mhm.
and nobody had it, but Bob made the call, and then boom, now they're, going to complete that trail. So I don't know if you know, but there is a bay to sea trail that they're building as well. That might be a
Yes.
good commute path.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. So yeah, do let us know if there are other events that you can think of that we should be heading to. So another next step is the project prioritization. And so that's going to be a process whereby we assign values to a lot of different categories, and then sort of put that into the computer and see what it spits out. And so some of those categories are high demand areas, destinations, destination access, school access, transit access, safety, where are some of those collision hotspots, equity, implementation difficulty is there. I'd say maybe ease of implementation might be a better way to phrase that. And then kind of, is there existing funding that we can leverage that means that we could act on this quickly? So if there's anything you'd like to add to that list that we might consider as we go through this project prioritization process, that would be really helpful.
This is a decision sum matrix, basically.
Yeah.
And you're going to assign a value for these things. Is this the order in which you value these potential categories?
No, not at all. These are just potential topics.
How will you assign value? I used to work for a consultant. We gave staff a thing like this, and we
Yeah.
gave city council, or actually it was city council. And they valued things completely differently based on
Right.
their knowledge or lack of knowledge.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think some of the outreach materials, some of the boards that we have get at some of these questions. And so it'll be a combination of staff, working with Public Works, what is actually feasible.
Well, as you do your outreach, it might be instructive if you gave everybody the opportunity to take these categories and assign values.
You just,
I mean,
just rank them.
And rank them, right, have them have a rank survey.
Yeah.
Because I know if on the coast side, it's 3% of the population. If you rank it the way it is right now, we're not gonna get anything out of this at all.
Well, so that's another thing that we've been talking about internally.
So school access would be, that we would favor school access because that's our
Sure.
biggest problem.
Yeah. Another thing that we're looking at is, unincorporated San Mateo County it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And so you're right, it might be unfair to use this, the same matrix for each area. And so we've been thinking about maybe splitting this up so that, there's the bayside communities, then there's the coastside communities, because, the priorities will be different. And, when you look at things like equity or implementation, it's just, very different set of circumstances. So,
Maybe we as a advisory committee can rank that, so that we can help them out.
yeah, absolutely.
Might depend on each, like school access won't matter for, school, it's kind of, depends on the area,
Well, it's like to get to Cunha.
But a school area, that's huge.
Yeah.
Did you say you've already met at Mid-Coast Community Council about this?
We went to them in November of last year, and we're gonna go back to them later this month.
That's where I saw this on
I've
the,
never seen that. And I usually watch it.
So, please do provide feedback. You're welcome to send me an email. I think.
Well, I can survey PAC for their ranking of these priorities and send you their response.
Sure, yeah, and please include additional categories if they occur to you. This is just a kind of a food for thought list. So in terms of next steps, we're gonna be diving into this phase of community outreach on the draft recommendations. And after that, we will take that input and make revisions as needed to the draft recommendations. Then we'll start working on a draft plan. So that'll be not only the recommendations, but the accompanying narrative text and the pictures and all of that lovely stuff. We'll also, at that point, be working on the financial and implementation plan. And so, Claudia, that gets to your question in terms of, what the timeline for that would be to wrap the draft plan effort up in the spring of 2020. We'll come back to you all, come back to the community with the draft plan, ask, did we get it right? Are there additional edits that need to be made and additional things that we should think about including? And then in the summer, we hope to bring the plan to the Board of Supervisors. And in terms of the timeline for implementation, I don't know that I can give really the best answer to that question at the moment, apart from indicating that the implementation plan will likely have some categories like short, medium, and long-term implementation, because there are things like the Beta C Trail, which I think they expect to have that, I don't know if it's just the planning process complete by 2037 or implementation, I can't remember, but I just remember the date, the year 2037, which feels far away.
2037?
It's a constant, the oceans will ride, they'll need less trail by then. It's a brilliant move.
Yeah, we all.
It's much shorter.
Yeah.
Much shorter trail from the Bay to the sea once the oceans
It's
are.
getting cheaper.
Your job won't be in Foster City anymore.
No,
It'll be in Emerald Hills.
2037, I better not be working.
Don't quote me on that, but on that year. But so that's an example of a long-term thing where we can only chip away at the parts that are in unincorporated county anyway. It requires a lot of coordination with a bunch of different agencies and jurisdictions. But there are short-term things that can be done relatively quickly, cheaply, easily.
Well, like I said earlier, the parallel trail's been being studied for 20 years now,
Yeah.
at least.
Well, the pump track's 6 years.
Huh?
The pump track is 6 years.
I never heard of the
That's
pump track
amazingly
until we
fast.
became
I know.
a
single
park
digits.
district.
There was one for many years, I understand, up by the pond in Quarry Park. It was just hidden
Oh,
away.
yeah, they put them in, but, I just thought of, are you done yet?
I'm finished, yeah, the next slide was just my contact information.
Oh, okay. Thought of something, is it possible to separate walking and bicycling trails? I mean, put a line or something, bicycle here, walking here, because I gave up biking a long time ago. Walking, when you're walking on the trails and some bicycler comes, you know.
And they don't ring a bell or say on your
Yeah,
life.
a lot of times they don't.
They say nothing and then boom, particularly if you're walking
Rick.
your
Yeah.
dog.
Working on that.
I think that's a good point, though,
We
because
provided
like
those to
certain
all.
trails, like if you just had, just for instance, going to Half Moon Bay from here, if they completed the trail that ran along the highway, if you're in a big hurry, take that along the highway, you know? Where the coastal trail
Yeah.
seems to me something, you know,
It's
multi-use.
looking at the scenery.
Yeah, you gotta be safe around pedestrians and, you know, slow down. I mean,
I can speak for the bicycle culture on this. I run a bicycle club here on the coast. We have 150 members. The road cyclists you see on a $7,000 to $10,000 bike, they are not riding the bicycle trail. They are riding on the highway. They're doing 20 miles an hour plus. The people on the trail are usually commuters, usually not necessarily bicyclists.
They're recreational.
But they're recreational, or they're just commuters, or there's a lot of children on there. And a mixed-use trail system, that's very, very common for the whole impolite not thing. So I think what I'm getting at is the more trails we have, the more opportunities, you will get the segregation between, you know, the people
They'll
just
segregate
trying to get to
themselves.
work, the straightest line possible. The inland route has a lot less wind along the coast trail if you're going one direction. I know I tend to, if I'm just moseying, I will take the highway if the wind is blowing one way versus the other way. And then on a sunny weekend, I won't even go anywhere near the bike trail.
No.
It's just full of strollers and dogs that are just trying to kill you nonstop.
That's right.
So, I mean, but if there's another trail, I think that would dilute a lot of that.
Yeah, but in the
exactly.
meantime, or until there is a lot of trails,
Yeah.
we
That's a
need to
culture thing.
separate them, to put a line, you know, paint a line
Doesn't
and say
work.
bikes this one side and trails. I mean,
Unless the
walking
trail's
here.
another 15 feet wider, it really doesn't do
I
anything.
mean,
Yeah,
if
that's
we
what I
have
was
to
gonna
wait
say. I
till
have seen those.
2037, better paint a line.
Yeah,
Lines
I
are
have
doing-
seen those, but they have to basically be double the width of the coastal trail now.
And from the other perspective is every biker that's trying to get somewhere, every group of walkers is walking 3 abreast, and it's
Across the whole trail.
infuriating
Yeah.
when you're trying to get somewhere on your bike. So, I mean, there's
Yeah,
two sides to that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
But I think, you know, the design guidelines have changed when it comes
Yes.
to multi-use trails. We're now, it used to be 5 feet, I think, was the recommended width for a multi-use path, and now it's, I think, a minimum of 8.
Yes,
So.
and with 2 feet on either side for like, you know.
12 total.
Where,
Right.
but then usually
Gravel.
the way Half Moon Bay is doing it on the bluffs is, what they're proposing is they're moving it back from the bluffs, and there's gonna be a crushed granite trail, 8 feet, and then
Where?
on the bluffs in Half Moon
Like
Bay.
Poplar Bluff.
Poplar to Kelly.
Wave crest.
Wave Crest, well, the Wave Crest north.
down to Redondo.
No, just from Poplar to Kelly,
Oh,
just from Poplar
Where
to
the
Kelly.
erosion is getting very close to.
Gotcha.
Yep, they've got
Okay.
all that red fencing up there, and they're trying to get people away from there. And they're gonna put some interpretive signs on what's existing asphalt. But there's a measure G that goes back like 20 years in Half Moon Bay, and it says that you can't put pavement in that Wave Crest area. So they're talking about crushed granite, which may or may not work for, you know, road bikes and stuff like that. It'll make the trail go from asphalt to crushed granite to asphalt.
So, multi-use paths are, you know, the recommendation is that they're wider than they are. I can't speak to how effective it is when you paint a line, but we can get back to you on that, and it's something to consider, something I can bring up to the consultants and.
It
who have
helps
done
with the
line.
parents, with the kids, because when
Yeah.
you say to a kid, go to your right, that
Mm.
means nothing. If you say, stay on this side of the line,
Right.
that they understand. I barely have my left and my right.
I was about to say, yeah.
I will get them wrong more than half of the time.
That's right.
I start yelling port and starboard, they just look.
I do try to always yell on your left, and then you always, then they
My
just
left,
stop.
your left, who's left?
I know. Who's left, right?
Yeah, it was such an international community when I ride in Palo
Yeah.
Alto and anything else.
Yeah,
We always laughed that 30% of the time, we're not speaking the right language.
Yes, true.
Especially, you know, and so the bell just works.
The bell
great.
helps, yeah.
Y'all really
Yeah.
have
But that's a bike, but that's a bike
slow.
culture thing that some bike commuters, once you have a bike commuter culture, the bell is very common.
Yeah.
But we don't have a bike culture, commute culture here at all.
Barbara, would you like to speak?
I would just like to make one comment, thank you very much for coming. When you get to the financial part of this, can you come back to this committee and talk about what potential financial contribution this entity could make to make some of these projects a reality? Consider us a potential funding source. And come back to this
Especially if we
committee.
needed to shift the priorities.
Yeah, exactly.
Or accelerate
I mean,
timelines.
I'd leave it to this committee, but if you were to make a recommendation to the board, I would suspect very strongly that the board would support.
I think,
This seems like
Julia
really-
said earlier, the order may depend on who wants to fund what.
Yeah, so don't forget that, and this committee is the one that we will look for a recommendation.
Yeah.
So, great.
For anything between, from Princeton to Frenchman's Creek.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
wonderful. Please don't hesitate to send me an email if you have any follow-up questions.
I will survey everybody on the ranking
Okay, great.
of the priorities and
That'd
send
be
those
really
to you.
helpful. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And as I said, I will follow up with the dates for our outreach, and then again, once we have the materials, the draft materials ready for your review.
Okay,
So if you would send those to me, I
Sure.
will make sure that everybody gets a copy.
Great, I will do.
okay. Thank you, Julia.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's nice
thank
to,
you.
nice to have a presentation.
This here.
Okay, I'm going to motor on the agenda. I meant to say hi to our, we don't always have guests. I meant to say hello to him.
Oh, bye.
He's gone.
All right.
Okay.
It's much quieter in this room.
From the last few meetings when you've been here?
Yes. I didn't bring an entourage this time.
120 people and kids.
A little easier to film back there?
Do you know what happened? And I'll just make this a 30-second segue. After you guys all left the MCC meeting the other night,
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
after you left, the next topic was the mid-pen housing proposal. And they were so frustrated, because I was actually waiting for the topic after that, and I gave up because they had about 50 minutes of public comment. But they said, 50 kids and show up for the pump track, and County Park says, okay, we're gonna do it. We've been coming here for 2 years saying, don't do this, with 50 people here, and you just keep going. So they were very impressed with the bicyclist community ability to influence.
I can cue them in
Well,
on
it's a
our
win-win.
strategy.
You know?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with grown adults. You need the
You need
angry
50
moms and the
kids.
cute kids.
Yeah.
Us scruffy mountain bikers get nothing. The county has no problem blowing us off. You need the moms and the kids.
That was brilliant.
What is that peninsula housing thing? That's,
Oh, mid-pen housing,
Yeah.
where
site
is
work on
that?
MCC, across the road from the hostel that's no longer there. On
Okay.
that bluff is where they're looking to build.
Revelations.
They are actually going to build.
It's not approved yet. It's continuing to go. They're continue to refine and reduce their plan, but. Okay, let's go to our agenda.
Yeah.
First is approving the minutes from November, if anybody can remember November.
Yep.
Any changes or
I didn't.
updates?
Yeah. On some of the wording, I was confused on the action, page 6 of the list of design criteria
Yeah.
for the park. It says skate, scoot, small bike park. Is that referring to the size of the bike?
Yes.
As in the user group, or the actual dimensions of the facilities itself?
It was the size of the bike, and it was from my memory, it was for kids, little kids,
Okay,
using it along with kids with scooters, kids on bikes, but small kids.
Okay.
So I put small bikes.
okay.
And I did explain that at the meeting.
That doesn't mean I remember it.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I don't think you were there at the board meeting when I reviewed the list.
Okay, excellent.
So is that okay? It was meant for like,
So no Harleys?
little kids on little bikes
Yeah.
amongst the skateboards and scooters.
And that criteria was based upon a user demographic that we're trying to target for that facility?
I think I think I inserted the word small, but skate, scoot, bike park, I think was your words.
Those were my words, yes.
Yeah.
Small
Yeah, and it was,
Yeah.
the demographics that, little kids there, and then they graduate to
that where the
bigger
half pipe
parks.
is.
Yeah.
Great.
Was
I
it-
was hoping for something maybe progressive that as they got closer, but I understand what the wording is there.
I think when we get to the park,
Yeah.
I think we can always give more advice to the board to expand on that.
Right, this isn't locking us into anything else.
No,
Yeah.
nothing
know
is locked.
No. yeah.
Okay, there was one thing, now I can't find, I should have
Oh.
marked it, but I can't. Of course, I was looking at online, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't mark it. But it was something about, I think it's in the minutes, that all the surveys were the same, or the same thing came out of each survey, but I think you were talking about the 2 or 3 that we've done here in our district. But you can't discount the 3 that were done by the county before that. So those, there was never a mention of pump tracks or skate ramps or anything. So the
I
majority,
think it was on the pump track agenda item, Fran.
yeah, whatever. I'm gonna show you one that I brought. This is the county plan, one of their surveys. This is one of them. And here it is the
Survey for Burnham Strip?
parks, county parks.
Oh, county parks.
Here, I'm gonna put the
It's
code.
from
Yeah.
before GCSD was a services
Oh,
district.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you pump tracks is a new phenomenon within the last 8 years. Park
I
systems
know,
have
but you
never heard
guys
of
keep
it.
saying, been talking about it for 10, 20, 12 years. No,
He said
they had
six.
never heard
He
of it
said
until
six.
it became a
They
park
weren't
district.
plowing all the jumps and
Right,
stuff.
they were worded
I
differently
mean-
back then.
Yeah, there's stuff like this.
Okay, but I want to show you
Yeah,
that
okay.
this is the survey, and they did 3 of these, and through the years, and the same came out, preserve open space, 89%. I don't know, can you get this if I hold it up?
Fran, the agenda item we're talking about is approving the minutes.
Yeah, well, that was in the
It wasn't in the
minutes.
minutes, I think it was in the pump track agenda item.
Oh, okay. All right, then we can approve the minutes.
I like the minutes.
Okay.
Before we approve the minutes, Delia had a question. She said that
She thought the vote counts were
the
wrong,
vote
but I
counts
think
were
she
wrong,
missed
but
it, Susanna wasn't
that
there, so the
Susanna
vote
wasn't
counts
here,
are
so,
correct.
Yeah, they are correct.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, she's missed her flight
Her
was late.
flight.
Her flight was late.
I thought it's iffy when you're trying to fly in from somewhere and go to a meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so can we have a motion to approve the minutes? I can never remember if we need a
I'll
motion
move
for that.
to approve it.
Okay.
Good minutes.
Okay, Fran, and seconded by
Me,
Michelle.
Me.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 5-0, okay. Okay, now we're at the pump track update.
Are we on Granada Parks Advisory Committee General Rules? Oh, that's what we approved. No?
No, you're right.
Yep, there.
So every year, it's always slightly awkward, but every year, PAC re-elects chair and vice chair. And so we'll open nominations for both. I will speak on Pat's behalf that he's skiing in Idaho, I think, today. But he would be happy to stay on as vice chair if people want him to, but we'll open up nominations. Any nominations for chair for 2020? In case you didn't read it, the chair chairs the meetings, the vice chair chairs if the chair isn't there. The chair and vice chair tend to work together on creating the agenda and any background materials, and end up being the kind of primary points of contact between meetings for Claudia.
I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah, do you want to stay on as chair?
I've only been doing it for 1 year, so I'm happy to stay on,
Great,
I think that's good.
be the chief bureaucrat.
and I'm all for,
I pass, I make the motion for
I
Nancy
say
to
we
stay on as
re-elect,
chair
yeah.
and Pat stay on as vice chair.
yeah, I'll
We
second
do a roll
that.
call vote or something like
I
that.
don't know. I think so, yeah.
I like that side of the table, keeps me on my toes. Okay, somebody make a motion?
I made a motion.
And I second.
Michelle and Fran. Re-elect current officers?
Correct.
Word the motion that way?
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. Thank you. I
Thank you.
actually,
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to do it because I no longer have to write the newsletters or organize the classes.
Getting this thing,
I did put
it's
up
a
posters.
well-oiled machine now, right?
Yes.
Yes, hope no.
Well,
It's easier now.
and we have Claudia.
Yeah, of course.
Two actually things that I am proud of from last year, first year, is we got Claudia, we have our staff person, and actually forming the pump track task force and having a subset of PAC that has
Yeah.
an action plan. And I think the subsets work really well.
Excellent.
Okay, well, we will make that no, we don't have to recommend that to the board. That is the one decision we get to make by ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Feel like such a big one.
Self-governing.
And we'll move on to the pump track. As Fran noted, I didn't know it was that recent a phenomenon, because I only started hearing about pump tracks when I joined.
They were called
3 years
BMX
ago.
tracks or bike parks. They had a different terminology. They existed. They're really popular in the last 8 years in parks.
Okay.
San
we
Mateo
wouldn't have
Parks
heard
is
before.
also catching wind of this right now. Nick is
Yeah.
having to build several of them throughout his county.
Really?
Really?
Oh, yes.
Are they doing it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's why
I
he.
mean, you
he
represent
was
the
willing to
people and the
jump on
people
it?
want it, so I mean.
Whereabouts?
Flood?
Flood
Park as
There's
well.
Flood Park, and then there's talks of some other ones as well. There's also City of Belmont is looking at putting one in right now currently,
Mm-hmm.
and there are possibly 2 other places on the peninsula that other bike groups are talking about.
Yeah.
And it turns
Flood
out
Park's
city-
supposedly gonna be paved,
But still,
paved path,
Right.
it's a paved
paved pump track.
pump track, which is great. If you have the funds for it, that's a great way to
Yeah,
go.
seems good for, you know,
What's in the
some
city?
aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the-
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if they have quite the local volunteer effort. They might, though, I just don't know.
And they might not have, I mean, the advantage I think that we have, or maybe the unique thing we have, is connected, we have a park that's connected to 3,800 acres of open space with fire roads and trails, so the mountain bike pump track
Yeah.
continuum
Yes.
is
Montero Mountain.
something we have, yeah.
Yes, it becomes a great center.
When they open up the watershed
Working on
of that too, right?
We, Rick and I went on the volunteer Ridge Trail training.
it. Dose
Oh.
of training.
So if you haven't done it yet, you don't have to become a docent necessarily, but it's really good for all of us to understand, well, how the volunteer program works. It turns out that we can set up events, and we put them through the SPUC as long as we have a minimum of 5 people.
Is this the trail up to the cell towers?
From the
Up
from the
Montero
from the
Mountain?
cemetery on 92 and 35, south all the way to Pacific and back
On
along
the
the ridge.
North.
On the Cahill
Or
Fife
north, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's the Cahill Fife
That sounds
Ridge
awesome.
Trail.
It is.
And it's
So can we
9
go with you?
miles,
Great bird watching.
it's 9 miles long,
Yes.
and you can bike it or you can walk it.
Oh, I want to go end to end, I mean, one end to
Yeah,
one end.
well,
Yeah.
what they do for us, we were in a van, so it wasn't, we had a couple of good views.
Is it a fire road like that?
It's a
You
fire
can
It's
go
all
in?
wide,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fire road, but he takes you in the van because he's just teaching you how to be a docent and teaches you the combination, what to do, where not to go, that kind of thing.
There is a few hills of whatnot, so it is quite a. I would call it a moderate to strenuous hike, and it's a decent bike ride.
Like going up to Montero Mountain?
Not quite that big of a haul actually, because it's on a ridge line, but it does
Okay.
drop up and down quite a bit. So not that bad of a
Okay.
hike.
I could do that.
You can do that. Well,
Yeah.
we can put something together for you.
I won't do it on my bike.
Well, one of the things that I thought
Well, no, we can hike.
would be good is, you know, you can get
That'd
in
be
on
cool.
cemetery, right? And maybe to start with, we could do some in and out, like just a pillar.
Out and back.
Yeah, out and back, yeah, out and back.
It might be, so park this for summer rec,
Mhm.
but that's the sort of thing maybe we could organize, and, because we can rent a van, you know, to take people,
Yeah,
to
So
to
you
do
can
the
shuttle
whole
them.
thing and shuttle them back.
because San Francisco Watershed Department really wants this utilized more. So they would be more than willing to work with us on getting more people up there and doing that and utilizing the program. They said the
Yeah.
programs are actually very underutilized.
Because we could, it's just something we could, there are things that we could partner with county parks
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Because it kind of ends, does it end at San Pedro Park?
Sweeney Ridge
Okay.
is where they officially end, and then you can hike the rest out to where you would park.
Okay.
Did you guys go by the Montero peaks?
No, you stayed down a little bit lower than that on the Cahill Trail. That's Whiting Ridge, which is up there to North Peak.
Okay.
So it jumps out on Sweeney Ridge, if you know where the old Nike sites were.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're towards San Bruno?
Yep, right in between them.
The
Is
cool
it
thing
dog
was-
friendly?
It is not
Not
dog
dog-friendly.
friendly, and you can't smoke either.
Nope.
Not that you were going to, but, and there's no
9 miles
water.
for- 9
And-
miles
and-
for
and
dogs.
the other
It's
criteria,
dosage, yeah, it's
and ironically,
all
the
about the
water,
rules now.
ironically, the water department has no water. So you have to bring all your own water.
Okay.
But there are bathrooms everywhere up there. It's
And they're
amazing.
gonna put a
Completely
couple of
co-opted Rick
tables
into
here and
being
there.
a rules guy.
As north as far as what?
From
From the
35
cemetery
to Sweeney Ridge.
to Sweeney Ridge?
Sweeney, all the way to
Wow.
Sweeney, Pacifica.
And so then you could hike down on
Yep.
Sweeney Ridge to the Crystal.
Yep, you could do
Crystal
Fast, you could do,
Springs.
yeah, you could do Sweeney down to Fassler down in the back of Linamar. You
Yeah.
could come down the other way and
Oh.
do the lakes. You could come down across the lakes.
Because SFPUC is in like Burlingame, whatever it was, San Bruno.
Mhm.
So what they do, they tend to have more people, not from here, but from on the other side of the hill, so they usually park at the Portola gate. And then they shuttle to 92, and then they walk along, and then once they get sort of past Sweeney Ridge, they're no longer on SFPUC land, and they don't really care whether, but.
How you get there.
Well, right, and how long you stay. And part of the problem is because you're parking your cars on the SFPU side of the gate. So there's just, that's why I thought the in and out would be really easy. If we get the shuttle there, we just hike in for a little bit out, we don't have so much of the traffic.
Yeah.
Because Rick and I got really lucky that we got back before that big accident happened on 92 and Main.
Saturday.
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday.
Yeah.
What about Kenyatta Road? Do you bicycle that when it's closed once a month?
Do I ride?
I don't.
I take my kids there, it's great.
I used to do that with my son.
It's
yeah.
good fun.
I used to do
I mean, I ride it all the time with
Yeah.
the cars to work, but I mean, with the kids, it's great. They just
Yeah.
take up the whole road and meander, and everyone yells at them. It's great.
Okay, pump track.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
I think all of us were at the last board meeting, because Fran, you were at the board meeting as well. So if you could catch us up with basically what happened on the walkthrough, and I know some of us were at the MCC meeting the other night where this was covered, but just for the sake of
Okay,
PAC and people who
yeah.
watch PAC meetings on the video,
Sure.
what's the status of pump track?
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, going back to the walkthrough, we met with the county, Michelle, Rick, and I, and Barbara, and anyway,
David was
David Seaton.
yeah, David Seaton, jeez, I know, it was a long time ago.
And then Eric
It's
and
2
showed
weeks.
up.
Yeah, so, anyway, that was, you know, the first, actually, the walk started, we were at Quarry Park itself, and initially we were talking some about the, you know, the proposed new plan, or new pump track. And I was actually a little bit late, and I kind of missed that discussion. But then we went over to the Murata East, and looked at, you know, showed Mr. Horsley the track that had been built by the community, and you know, to make him familiar with it, and you know, let him check it out. And anyway, he was pretty adamant that there was that he was not okay with the liability of the track being on, you know, Quarry Park land. And so he, so then
The
What?
in
Murata
Murata
East
They're gonna
track.
put
In
it-
Murata East.
The one that the community built.
well, just in that state, like let's just say like a ad hoc sort of just,
Oh,
Unpermitted.
Yeah.
That's what he said,
yeah, exactly.
not the
Wasn't,
land.
yeah, nothing about, you know, anything proposed locations or anything like that, but just literally that track right there in the circumstances that it came about.
It was a process argument.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and it was kind of funny because he did bring up something about trees being a liability, but it's like, you can walk anywhere in Quarry Park and have the same tree condition. I mean, it's essentially a jungle of eucalyptus.
Yeah.
They don't trim them, so, you know, I think if you go there, you just gotta expect that you might get, you know, have a branch fall on your head.
Yeah, and they'd have to
It's
close
just the
Quarry
way it
Park.
is, yeah.
Good thing it's wearing a helmet.
Cut them all down, I mean,
It's
give me a
a tree
break, you
helmet.
know? It's just the way it is, so. I like to to go outside, a tree might fall on you. So anyway, so anyway, just to try to cut it short, Barbara stepped up and said that GCSD would like to assist with them and try to somehow make, come to some sort of agreement with them. And, was very, I would just say, generous with the offer to try to work with them to allow them to come be okay with leaving it there. And then I think Dawn pretty much was just saying, well, you just need to completely indemnify the county. So it's kind of like they were really willing to do nothing, in my opinion.
To save
yeah,
the
although leave it
track.
for now, not immediately tear it down, but they weren't willing to, say, work with GCSD at that point. So
Retroactively permit or, yeah.
yeah, I mean, that was basically, it was no like, well, let's try to figure something out. So anyway, going from there, I think for them, for the county, it would be up for GCSD to come up with something to allow that to be used. So I believe that's being worked on right now. So I don't know the status of that, but anyway, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, so my understanding is that questions have been put to legal and insurance. We'll wait, I guess, for the board meeting for information to come back on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Has the discovery process been started, or are we waiting for the board to vote to whether to look into a discovery process of information?
We'll ask
Perhaps
our
I
board
can
president.
speak to that.
Yeah.
I know, but
We have engaged our attorney in looking at it. There's more to do. One of his initial comments that I will, relate to you, which is that he thinks that the process of negotiating an agreement for the use of that existing pump track could take as long as, or longer, as putting all our energies and attention to creating a permanent pump track. And so there's a question.
I'd like to understand what time he thinks it's going to take, because I'm reading the law right here, and it's pretty clear. It seems to me it's a GCSD board decision to read the law as it's stated and just.
I'm not prepared to get into a discussion of that tonight. I'm reporting on what our attorney said. I mean, I understand that this is something you'd like to discuss, but I don't think it's appropriate for me. I can't speak for the board. The board has not taken a position on this, but I can relate to you a couple of things that have been, we are working on it. I'm trying to set up a meeting with the county to talk about potential collaboration with the county. So, we are trying to move this along as fast as possible. I do give the county credit, what they're trying to do to get the permanent pump track in is lightning speed for government, and we all have to, I think, recognize that. So
Yeah, appreciate that.
we'll have more to share, I think, at the next board meeting. I'm working on, trying to get a robust staff report and so forth for us to be talking about, so we can then take public testimony and discuss it, which I can't really do right here.
no.
But we're working hard to work with you guys, and, I think what you guys are doing is a really important part of the process as well, so.
Right
Can
on.
I-
I'd like to add a note to the legal.
Is there any more questions for me? Because I don't want to jump in the middle of
No.
your meeting,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. My question is the legal representation and advice at this point for the Parks and Recreation side of this, do we have the right legal counsel? Judging by the clientele and the past case history of our current legal team, they do not represent recreation in any way, shape, or form, nor have they ever. And they seem completely biased towards lands preservation and not recreation whatsoever.
I'm not going to.
No, I don't expect a response from this. I just was wondering, I wasn't here when that legal consult was brought on. Were we looking at active recreation at that point, or only land preservation?
It's, I think it's been, for GCSD, it's been the same
Yes.
legal partners.
It has.
For quite a long time.
We have a legal team that specializes in working with government agencies.
Right.
Yeah.
And the particular team that is here, I did a little research on them, and they've never represented any sort of recreation. So I'm just concerned that if we are going to have a Parks and Rec department in the future, we might want to look into somebody that might be more interested in the recreation side of things.
Or we need to make sure that they will do or commission that appropriate research. Today, I reread the median use permit, because I've heard people say, could we just extend that? And so I think we need to, and I only came in on the end of that, but it took about a year
Yeah.
to negotiate that. But one of the things in it is GCSD assumes liability for, if GCSD does anything on the medians, there's nothing permitted. It allows us to seek a permit to do an improvement.
Right.
And so anything that we would do under that would have to be permitted, and the liability would be for whatever space we have improved. So I think the one complication with the road track is,
Permits.
it's not, it may not be permits, it at least would need to have a boundary, a physical boundary in which we are assuming liability.
Right.
And and I will just say, having run a medical laboratory and had to pay out on a liability claim that was so ridiculous, you wouldn't believe it. You know, when somebody is hurt and injured, they sue everybody, and everybody who has deep pockets settles, even if the law is on their side, because that's cheaper than going to court and litigating, and if you're in front of a jury, anything can happen. So the laws and the signs work for minor injuries and low-cost things. They don't really help you for a high-cost injury, because you sue everybody, because you need to.
I'm sorry, I've been involved with hazardous sports law for 15 years. It's a very simple law, and I can read it to you.
No,
We're not
Michelle,
convincing anyone here tonight.
Yeah.
The board's not here.
I know, but I want at least you guys to be convinced
I will
of
read the
it.
law, but I've had the law on my side and still paid out big figure payouts.
You guys are probably both right, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, then we
You're
might
right,
have to
there
get rid of the
is,
skate ramp then too, because it's dangerous.
Well, we agreed
It's
to
also
take
not
that risk.
permitted either.
I think we're going to have liability insurance for the board to take it on, is all I will say.
I know, and I don't think that's a big deal. It's no bigger
Okay.
deal than the skate ramp.
And it may not be, I don't think that's what, I think the only point I wanted to make is, we probably have to define a boundary in which we're assuming liability. And then
That would be expected.
see if we can get liability insurance to cover for that boundary.
Thankfully,
And the
there's,
skate ramp is on GCSD's property, and I think that's the only.
Still not permitted.
yeah.
It still may work,
I know, but that's my point, is we still need to make R1 work in the same way too.
Okay, so that's where we are with R1. Where are we with the permanent track?
well, I do think, Rick would know more about what's going on.
I can speak to that
You
from,
know,
as far as GCSD's involvement with the official pump track, I believe where the county is with that is they're doing it. They're taking care of it. They've heard the community loud and clear. I talked to Nick this evening. We had Coastside Mountain Bikers had a meeting with him tonight with our board as far as progress and surveying the community. He's very much working on it, very, very fast. But as far as GCSD's involvement, there may be financial things that could be helped out with once a budget is established. There is no budget yet or a cost estimate because the design hasn't been done. But I think besides, there may be some, community involvement, but I really don't think any of GCSD's leverage or wants. I think they heard us, they're doing it. We're basically done besides the checkbook, basically, at this point from GCSD's point of view. GCSD was going to want some input and local control as far as the design. They've requested that. County's doing that. They're keeping at least one of us installed, and they say they're going to keep GCSD involved. At the next meeting that they have for public input, they're going to involve GCSD when they have a meeting for public input at Quarry Park as well.
Should we, and I think I said this before the meeting officially started, but I'll repeat it for here.
Yeah.
Let's not forget San Mateo County Parks Foundation as
Yes.
as a potential additional funding
And
source.
that's a different agency outside of county parks?
Yes, it is a foundation, it's a nonprofit.
Okay, yeah.
That basically, county parks never gets a budget, they have to go looking for
Look for
funding for
money, yeah.
everything. So the foundation helps them
Right.
by funding certain things. So all the improvements that were made at the community garden were paid for by the foundation.
Yeah.
But they have done playground installations and trail installations and various other things, so they may be interested.
Yeah,
as
I
a-
remember when you first
you
brought that
talked
up.
to her,
Yeah,
yeah.
and at the
Yeah.
time, they said, they wanted to wait to see the master plan, but now this is officially,
It's separate
moving.
from the
So yeah,
master
I would
plan.
think they would be very interested.
Yeah, and Nick mentioned
providing
that
some
once they have the budget and the proposal, figure out how much money they need, and then they can start looking for grants and looking for funds at that point.
Yeah, Nick may want to engage the foundation at that point as well. But it can help GCSD share cost.
Definitely, oh, yeah, yeah.
What's the official name of the foundation?
It's the San Mateo County Parks Foundation. And I think it might be in our August meeting minutes, we have the name of the director, because I'd met her at an MCC meeting last summer.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Yes. That's great.
And Paul did talk to her right
Yeah.
after we formed the.
Yeah, and they
task
were
force.
definitely interested in getting the younger demographic involved, and that's something that I think everybody involved in this project is working on, making sure that
Yeah.
kids that are
I
barely
think
old
if she saw
enough,
all those kids,
Yeah.
she would be going, wow.
kids are barely old enough to walk, we definitely want them out there rolling around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking 3-year-olds on some of the sections that we're developing. So, yeah.
Great.
I saw a bunch of little kids on bikes this weekend.
Mhm.
Yeah, that were,
It's great.
so what, can I have a couple of questions?
Certainly.
Who came up with the current site there in Quarry Park, near the gate, near
That-
the road? Did
I
the
was-
county or did you
Like
guys?
near the road?
The county did.
The
Oh,
county,
which
that's
road?
where they
The
want.
county.
Well, I can answer this more clearly.
Wait, before you answer, Fran, are you talking about the one on Santiago, or are you talking about the one in the picture here?
Yeah,
The
well, yeah, in Quarry Park, I
In
mean,
Quarry Park, yeah.
across from the
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yes.
Like you see in the picture, there's the maintenance facility.
Yep.
You look at the picture?
I'm trying to figure out what those are.
That's the maintenance
That
facility right
is?
there.
Yeah.
And then there's that track right there, and then there's the kids.
So it's
What
like
is
back,
that?
it's not really by a
That's the
road
parking
or
lot.
by a
The
gate.
parking lot.
That's where the
Does
parking
that
That's
lot
wanna
the
be-
parking lot?
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out what those
Oh,
things.
Yeah, I was just
It's
trying, I
where-
wanted you to be clear on where the,
It's where you want people to be running their dogs, it's up at the back of that,
It's way farther past
at
that.
the back of the meadow.
That's where I took you to walk.
Huh?
I took you up.
Yeah.
by the concrete rings.
And there are skates.
You know, the big.
No, it's not near there. Well.
Yeah, it is. It's, I mean, it's to the right of
But
that
it's,
if you're looking at
but
the hill.
originally it was gonna be across from where the ship container thing is that the county uses as a warehouse.
There were quite a few different proposals at different timelines. Over on that side, the county decided that where they wanted to leave open for their helipad, according to the emergency response team and according to the county. The county came out and surveyed the land, and they chose that site that they're currently looking at. Coastside mountain bikers looked at that site and came up independently. And then also in the master plan workshop, the community voiced that that was the best site as well. So the 3 different surveys that were done, all independent, all determined that that was the best site for that sort of
I don't know.
activity.
This is where I remember the consensus from the Quarry Park Master Plan.
And it was.
Yeah,
It was.
that was kind of
No, it
the
was
the
further
ideal.
down.
No, that's
I
not
don't-
what Nick said, and that was the serendipity of it, is that we both agreed on location, and we've got potential money, and we have community support. So he says the hardest thing.
Okay, so there is a tree down there, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't allowed to come to your meeting, so there was a tree down, and I'm wondering, is this good? I saw, Barbara took me out to see where it's gonna be, and it's staked, and it's a huge area on both sides of the tree that's laying across. So do you know, is it gonna take up that whole area? You're gonna cut the tree out, or?
Oh, the dead tree?
That tree, yeah, that fell over.
Well, yeah, the dead tree and all the trash would have to go away.
Yeah.
Or is it gonna take up from stake to stake?
I can't-
Or can it be on the other side of the tree?
I can't tell you exactly because the design isn't finished and Nick hasn't sent the design out for bidding yet. So that would be up to county parks of where exactly they're gonna put it. They're open to designs right now and
So
there are people
what's
submitting.
this?
They're gonna do.
That is the suggested location of where we suggested, that the pump track task force has suggested. And that is the location that county parks has also
Steve?
suggested.
I'll show the picture that we have here in our,
Yes, and for the people
think,
looking on
like-
video, if you go to granada.ca.gov/granada.ca.gov, look at parks agendas,
Got it.
it's in the parks agenda.
Or you can just go to Coastside Buzz and put in pump track, and you get plenty of pump track information.
Or like, if you go to, or like a good place to go look for a well-built pump track is Harvey West in Santa Cruz.
yeah.
And maybe we should do a little trip down there, a little
Yeah.
educational.
I've been
Is that the one that's
I
right
could
along
drive.
along Highway 1?
No, that's
Behind Costco.
an Aptos.
Ah, okay.
It's
behind Costco and Sinkers.
Yeah, it's sort of buried behind some stuff.
against the hill.
It's actually, you would be there and you wouldn't even know. It's
That it was there.
literally, yeah, it's just up in the tree. I mean,
So-
it's not
but
in.
That location and that design isn't finalized, that's proposed location. Nick and obviously San Mateo County Parks gets final say over exactly the footage and and that. That's the one that the community, that's the location that was chosen at the meeting in El Granada.
The very last time they showed a plan,
Yeah.
which got everybody roaring with
Yeah, they
disapproval, they had it actually next to the playground,
Yeah, I know.
Just
They had it
uphill
even
from the
closer,
playground.
and it was tiny, it was like 30
It
feet
was
by 40 feet. It was
right
like
on the parking lot.
Yeah.
And so I think moving it over and back up.
Tucking it way
behind
up into the
tree,
hill up
Tucking
there.
it up
Yeah.
against the hill.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I don't think it will be so out, open and obvious. So, yeah, now it is up to the county, because they have decided to do it, and they're
Yeah.
gonna do it on their own.
Yeah,
And they'll be looking to us as a funding source
and input.
and input. And they
Yeah.
will be doing community meetings broadly,
Yes,
or
they
at
will.
least a community meeting
Do
broadly.
they, any
They
idea when
mentioned
those are gonna
there's a community
start, or-
survey that they're working on right now that'll go online, and then they're gonna do an in-person meeting. So there's gonna be a two-step process, very similar to what all the survey process that
That
we've
we've
seen.
done.
Yeah, that we said. And
Okay.
And speaking of, where, what you just mentioned, where they decided to put it above the tot lot, or that
Yeah.
one director did. That's why he's no longer there, I think.
I don't think that's what the saying came, but
But
Yeah.
that area, I just want to tell the public, it's beautiful right now. It's all nice and green, and it's open for play, for the kids to play. And we're trying to keep the dogs out. They're going to post signs, no dogs in that whole area.
To
The tot lot. And
the right of the
originally,
parking lot.
that was all one area, the tot lot and the couple of acres above the tot lot.
Yeah.
It was the extension of the kids' tot lot is only for little toddlers. The older kids want to play up there, and, or you can play football there, you can play baseball. People have been doing that on the weekends when there's not dogs there, and they're not supposed to be dogs there. The county doesn't allow off-leash dogs in any of the parks, so I just want people to know that, and the kids can start using it, the schools can use it, and it's available there.
Yeah.
And the kids can run around up there and play. And guys, you guys, you want to play football, you want to play baseball, there are families that come up and do that, so.
Oh, yeah, they do
It's a
something.
great place to do it. In fact, some of the active things you want to do in Burnham Strip is more practical in Quarry Park, because it's not by a road, it's not by the highway, where balls are going to go out on the highway. So that's the place to go for playing.
thank you.
The right side or the left side of the parking lot, that's
For the.
encouraging the dogs to go there.
Yeah, we are encouraging, most of them are doing that
Yeah.
now.
Oh, that's a massive space, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's plenty of
There's so
space.
much room there. that
And
you
they're
could
mowing
put-
it, which makes it easier.
You
Yeah.
could put more than, one thing in that little
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
shortage of space.
Do we have any further advice or motions or communications that we want to do as a group to the board at this time?
Geez, I think we're just kind of waiting on the county to kind of.
As far as
Yeah.
home track,
I don't know if we need to make a motion.
Yeah,
to
well,
get
we've
the board
already.
To get the attorney, because you're already doing that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
That would be
that's-
the only
That's the
motion
only thing
that-
that I want.
Yeah.
that would be the only motion I would ask for, is the attorneys to do due diligence to look into what liability laws are necessary due to Parks and Recs Association. There are clear laws and research. Michelle and I have been doing the same research. There are clear laws that state if it is signed as a condition that exists in a park and it's a known condition, it's not a surprise, that you really don't need anything above and beyond any normal, Parks and Rec agency. Special insurance actually isn't even really needed.
Yeah.
As long as it's a known condition. Things that are pitfalls or could sneak up on someone, those have to be, to alleviate those can exist, they just need signage.
Yeah. So if the motion is something like ensure that evaluation of assumption of liability for the East Marauda tract
Yeah.
is done in the context of parks and recreation liability coverage?
Yeah.
I'd like to have something
That's
referencing
a
the
mouthful.
2015
I'm gonna have
hazardous
to
sports
slow that
law
down.
in there.
Wait, I can only write so much at a time.
This is a motion for the Marata Surf one?
Motion to look into. And also to
Request,
urge,
yeah.
to request, but.
Okay, in the context of Parks and Rec liability, and Michelle, you wanted to add?
Reference 2015 AB, I can't remember the number, hazardous sports law.
I sent an email.
Okay.
Sorry.
I read the law several times.
Okay.
Me too.
So ensure that evaluation of
Quite clear.
liability insurance cover for the Marana East Track is in the context of Parks and Rec liability and in reference to the 2015 hazardous sports law.
AB 634.
And I kind of wonder too, I mean, just if you just try to use some common sense, but, you know, I mean, no one forces anyone to ride a bicycle, right? I mean, it's not,
I think the only thing that's going to be a negotiation is drawing a line around the space and agreeing
Yeah.
to that
And
specifically.
it's already
with the
fenced
county.
on 2/3 of it already, and there's natural barriers that exist. So it really wouldn't take much, but
And the thing that's unknown to me is a special district assuming liability
Within a
for
park.
a little chunk of county park land.
that's the weird part.
It's a complexity.
But no more weird than the medians.
No more weird than the medians, except the medians, it would be within a permitted space.
Because it has a curb around it.
Let me
Well,
ask.
no, because any improvement we do on the median, first we would have to get a permit for it, and that would define the space.
Let me ask this, when you guys went with the county,
The walkthrough?
along the Marata Surf
Mhm.
line, did you ask them, were they against that particular site? Did you ask if they considered anywhere else on that trail or
They
not?
had no problems with the site. They had problems with how it was built, and liability. That was the only problems they had with it. They had no problems with it of the park being used as a park, or people being in the park, or kids making noise,
Oh,
or
good.
trash, or any of that
Well,
nature.
glad to
It
hear
was just
that.
legality, according to what I understood.
What I heard them say, one of the comments might be helpful to interject, is that if the entity that owns the land or is responsible, you know, contracts for the design, has control over the design and the construction with licensed people, then their liability is much less. That was a point that they made.
Right.
Yeah,
And that would not be the case with this.
so that was
Right.
their concern. They didn't have control of the process.
Yeah, but the
for
irony
creating it.
is the people who built that track know more than anybody in San Mateo County planning and building.
That's irrelevant.
About doing that.
But are
Yeah.
they going to, this one that they want to build here, and are they going to allow the local contractor, or are they picking somebody?
We're working that out right now. We've had two contractors step up, Mario Andrini, and Blue Sky is actually interested. I talked to them yesterday. And,
Metrofolio.
and
Well, who's the
and
one that
Metrofolio.
wanted to do, said they'd
All three
volunteer
of them want to
to
do
do
it.
it for
All
free?
three of them want to do it. Mario is willing to do it for low cost, but, you know, the dirt wranglers, I think we estimated $30,000 over, what was that, a 40-hour week or something like that, or 2 weeks? So it's about $30,000 for their labor. And,
That was for design. That was for design and their labor.
yeah, design and labor.
which is-
And then Mario said something like, you know, $10,000 or $15,000 to move a little bit of dirt.
So county probably has to go through their legal bidding process, so will these
a
working
public- it's a
on
public
on our local contractors bidding? on the
Yes,
public
so
process?
if it's under $1 million, then you have to put it out to bid. But that's not a problem, because we'll just tell the people who want to bid on it, it's out for bid.
Yeah. please
And,
bid, yeah.
and they have to take low bid. So if you bid it low, you'll get it, and then we can have our locals do the work that we can do better than the county normally does. And if you look at the Marin, the Santa Cruz, the way they did it how we're trying to do it. And Nick is completely aware of the synergy of using like Iggy and Tony, like they did up in Marin. I mean, while Nicholas has been, asking around everywhere, he kept getting these, Iggy. And Iggy turned up in real life, and Nick was like, "You're real!" But he's the guy who's been building the pump tracks.
Yeah.
And so, he's got a record, and he's dealt with a myriad of, like in Marin, it was kind of like he was dealing with, the public agencies, then he was at a nonprofit, and somebody else who had money, something like that. It was a triumvirate of things. And it's just, this is what you gotta do. You wiggle your way through. And you just, if you wanna get it done, you'll get it done.
Yeah, it is a unique kind of build. It's not something at a concrete where you have defined plans and defined dimensions. Things have to,
Have fluidity.
yeah, so they,
And
but they do have a, come up with a design and a concept, and then they do, since it's public money, they're gonna go through the public bidding process, and,
Well,
I
they're gonna
don't,
do a plan, it'll cost a couple of $100,000, then they're gonna build, and it'll
No, we're
cost a
doing,
couple $100,000.
we just told you it's gonna cost $30,000.
Well, that's if you get your way. I'm saying what the
I'll get my
county,
way.
what the county normally does is their way.
well, that's kind of what
Well, Nick,
I've been
no,
concerned
I'll
about.
tell you I'll tell you how Barbara put a kibosh on that. She very, very boldly said, "Well, it's not a blank check." And Nick was like, "Huh," because we can do it for next to nothing.
And he really seems to want to do it,
Yes,
so I think the
exactly. So we
cooperation
just
is.
have to keep wiggling our way through, and I think we're gonna be fine.
I was just curious if there had been further discussion about the water line and the water.
Oh, they're gonna put one in.
That actually, I can speak to that. All of the park infrastructure stuff has been removed from the pump track stuff. So any benches, tables, fences, water fountains, hose bids, county's just doing that as a work order. That has nothing to do with the pump track anymore. If they need water over in that area because the pump track needs it, they're just gonna do a work order, and it's not part of the pump track project. And they do that
also-
internally.
And they want water at their workplace too.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's
over there.
separate.
Okay, I'll make the motion, since I wrote it down. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Well, what's the motion?
Motion is, and just to, as advice to the board, to ensure that the evaluation of liability insurance cover for the Marada East track is in the context of park and recreation liability and in reference to the 2015 hazardous sports law AB 634. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
I don't know. I'm gonna say,
It's just
You can
asking them. It gives me an
Abstain.
opportunity to say at the board meeting
Yes.
with legal there,
Yes.
that this is the concern that PAC has.
And
I would pass it on if needed.
Okay, I'll write it down and pass it on. to
Fran, are
somebody
you
else.
abstaining, or? Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Fran.
I'd like to, the more opportunities for recreation, the less impact you have on the community. There's no parking issues when you spread out groups of people. You're not gonna get big groups of people if they're just spread out
oh,
playing in
come
the
on,
dirt.
they come with trucks full of bikes and now.
And they disappear
Trucks
into
and
the
cars,
park.
I
and
know, it's a-
over at the skate ramp, there's always trucks and cars and.
Right, but if you put like 5 skate ramps, you would see less trucks, wouldn't you? I mean, do you think they just have extra trucks for every skate ramp? I mean, it would dilute
They'd be in different places, yeah.
it would dilute the
What I'm
impact.
saying is not everybody rides their bikes down there. They often come with in
You are
trucks.
correct, not everyone rides their bikes.
But actually, the people who are bringing their bikes are mountain bikers.
Well, yeah, but not everybody.
But I know,
Not
but I know, but not the kids.
True. but
And
just be-
especially, once it's done, they'll be coming from all over, so they will be riding cars and trucks, and there's so much traffic over there now.
They can
That's my
But then
problem
we
with
won't
that.
be
They can
driving the
park-
Santa Cruz.
They can park at
Yeah,
El Granada
Well, I'd
School.
rather they did.
They can,
No, we won't
they
be.
can
Yeah.
park at El Granada School. There's absolutely no reason why we can't put up a sign.
Well, that's why I thought Marada Surf was a better site, just park there.
Build
And the
one
kids
later.
can go right from school, they can just go right up the road.
I'm gonna bring this one to a close,
Aw.
because I was trying to get us out by 8:30, but now I'm aiming for 9 o'clock.
Can we take
Good
a
call.
5-minute bathroom break?
Before we end it?
Why don't you do that, because you have already heard, I'm gonna review what the board talked about for the park, which you were at.
Okay.
That's the next agenda. Yes, I'm not going to classes next. Because it's been a long time since November, and because we might have a motion for this, We made at our last meeting the list of things that we wanted to see in the Burnham Park plan.
Yes.
Every single thing that we had on the list, with the exception, and I had to do this from memory because it was the one thing not in my notes, of a fenced off-leash dog area. The board agreed to take forward into the next stage of the plan. There were two things that came out of that. One is that they approved Steve Kikuchi's contract, so he'll go into designing a more proper plan. And the board agreed that they should, sooner rather than later, engage in a discussion with county building and planning, potentially Caltrans, other things that may impact on the park. Steve's advice was wait until we've got something for them to look at and engage with rather than have an ephemeral discussion. And so that is where things sit as of this moment. Waiting for Steve to have something for them to look at. He has all of the materials from the workshop and from our survey that he's working with. I did want to say on the skate scoot bike track, when we talked about that and I just described what it was, he did say, I may need a little more information on what that is. And Paul, you had a suggestion that maybe between the skate ramp and the skate scoot bike park, a ribbon track that's paved might be something that could connect them.
I have a
and
file
provide
of pictures that
another
we're putting
opportunity.
together. David Seaton and some other people asked for some pictures of examples that we're putting together for that, to
Okay.
give to Jim.
Now, would Steve,
Or
oh yeah,
Steve.
go ahead.
Steve,
go ahead.
whoever Jim is,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I was only going to suggest that just another, since they're now, I really like that Chuck is putting the Parks report on the agenda, so it can be two-way rather than just dropping off information.
Definitely.
And I don't have to wait until the very end of the meeting to talk. The more we can feed the voice of PAC in, that would be great. So my suggestion is maybe that we make a motion I can take to them to ask that, when ready, to put a little more detail around that we have Steve meet with, particularly
People interested
you two.
in this? Yeah.
That'd be great.
Who can envision what it is simply because it wasn't something that he has done before.
Right.
I think too, like, there would be benefit with, someone from the skateboard community too, because if they're asking, what would they, because he's talking about getting more input.
Into what a skate, scoot, bike
Yeah,
park
I want
is.
to know myself.
Yeah, and those can vary the gamut of what you're looking for. Mostly it's just uneven surfaces with little things to play on with your small wheels, whether they're just little bumps or swales,
Yeah.
or little boxes, or little curbs, or a little rail. That's basically what they consist of, and what the ribbon trail would be.
A circular thing?
No,
I guess-
usually, the one that we were suggesting that would be a connecting path would just be some sort of paved path that was smooth, but it had a little bit of undulation and possibly little things to play with along the way, where you just kind of ride up and then ride down. Nothing more than this.
So this isn't for pumping then?
No,
it
this is-
it
no, this is for
But it's
scooting.
for scooters and bikes and
Little
skateboards.
kids on big
It's
wheels.
a hard surface, because you can do the same, you utilize the same physics for all three. And it's actually really useful for skateboarding and, scooters too, just to, like, building the leg, like the motion and the balance. And it would just be a fun little thing to get off of, like, the main walking path, and then you could have it be like a transportation route to this sort of skate scoot area. I guess,
Which would
Well,
likely be
How do you see it in relationship to the
the
skate ramp? Is that,
I
that
see
would
it
be
just
like,
a
you want to
connecting
put it
trail.
next to it, right?
Yeah, right.
well,
next
it
to
wouldn't, it would
Wait,
be
we're
something
talking
that
about
would
two
be a
different things here.
trail. Say it's a trail, so it's
This-
like an access point.
The skate scoot area versus a ribbon trail are two separate things that are being
That's why
proposed.
I understand.
Now, the skate scoot area is just around the skate ramp. Is just a paved area with possibly some features and some boxes and some
It could
curbs.
be the size of the
But-
skate ramp.
But that would be the skate scoot area.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is a ribbon connector, an access trail to that would be engaging for those same
It could
wheels.
come from the perimeter trail
Yeah.
over to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the same sort of small little features that are engaging those users on the way there.
Yeah.
That when you're clearly there, and it would spread out the load
Okay.
and also
You
get.
don't have any pictures of,
I currently don't have any printed to hand you right
We'll
now.
get
so-
them.
A good way to
We'll get them
imagine
the
would
plan
be,
and go
like,
somewhere.
say you're coming from one area, like the main trail or the parking lot area to this skate area, a trail that would have turns as opposed to just being a straight line to it. And then the turns, you would have, some bumps and some rollers between them. So
Just
that
kind
way
of
you
an
could
undulating path.
yeah, and you could do that,
Still
pumping motion to
walkable
like
with a stroller
get speed
and
through
things of
it.
that nature.
Yeah.
Like it would actually, it just seems like they're a lot of fun and they're just good for,
And it's just
all ages.
a little connection that gives them
So
something to play on
we're
between.
taking up more and more of that parking lot, so it'll be a lot less.
We would have to have a
parking.
path leading there anyways, why not make the path engaging?
well, it's just kind of like breaking off, getting, like sort of separating the traffic a little bit from walking and whatnot. Anyway,
Yes,
but yeah, it sounds like
Director
there's a lot of,
This is a valuable, premature.
yeah.
At this point, he's just putting items on a map, and then we're going to be going for sort of some general planning issues, what can be where. I mean, there's going to be a lot of input needed for the playground. What does the playground look like? What are
Yeah,
those things? There's going to be a lot of different features. What does the picnic area look like? Are we going to have any public art? There's a lot of things, so
Planning.
I don't think this
This one point.
committee necessarily should be designing the parts of the Burnham Park yet. I mean, and there is no reason that you shouldn't be looking into it and thinking about it and coming up with it and having pictures and so forth. But let's just be aware that it's going to be a process to get there.
aware, I just want to make sure that we create, as an advisory committee, a channel for
Right.
those ideas to get
Especially-
into the process.
Especially if the consultant is unaware of what we're asking for. We need to
I-
get him some clarity on that.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's just feeding an example to him.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the only feature you're interested in?
No,
No.
we want a rock climbing wall.
So.
It's a particular feature where Steve said at the meeting, he didn't really know what it was. I think he knows what a playground is.
Right.
And he knows what a climbing.
That was the
boulder
only
is.
reason we're talking about it.
But the reason we're talking about it is simply because Steve said at the meeting he didn't know what one was.
Well, great.
And so it's just let's make the connection that
Yeah.
PAC members will provide information through
I
to
mean,
the plan.
is it appropriate for a PAC member to send him emails directly with images and suggestions, or is to clarify what he's asking for? Or does that need to go through the board or some other official channels?
Why don't you, because I think I told him at the time we could help him with that. Why don't you send it to me and I'll send it from PAC, just as an example of what that looks like.
Okay.
Or we can go to the board and say, is it okay if we send this to Steve? But
Well,
I'm used to breaking
actually,
rules.
send it to,
I can send it to everybody.
I don't,
what,
I will copy the Parks Committee.
I'll send it to her and she'll figure out who to send it to. How's that sound?
I'll copy the Parks Committee, which is Barbara and David.
There you
So
go.
everybody's in the
we're the
loop.
ones who are supposed to be interacting, and
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
asking, who am I supposed to be, he actually asked at the last meeting, there's a lot of different people who have ideas and want to interact, can we simplify it? And so,
Okay.
I think actually the idea of sending it to Claudia is a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, because Dave asked me to send them to him, but I can certainly send them to you. There's no
Just,
problem.
you can understand where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
which is.
Certainly, there's more than just this feature, don't design
Clarity
it.
of the process, so
Yeah.
that, he's not getting, he could get ideas from anybody. I mean, he's got a public email. I'm not saying that people shouldn't, I'm just saying, let's try to,
That's, it's good clarification. So anything on Burnham Park that comes from PAC will feed through Claudia, who can feed it to the Parks Committee, which is David and Barbara. And you guys are the interface with Steve.
yeah.
This is
or
just
we'll-
this-
I mean, we're not gonna censor we're gonna pass on anything you want to give.
Yeah.
But I want him to feel comfortable with the process that we're following.
I agree, 'cause-
He's not listening he doesn't have to listen to 20 people.
He was coming asking me questions, and I said, it's not me. So I think that's good clarity. So we'll send it through to Claudia, it'll go to the Parks Committee, and you to Steve.
Or
It's
probably
just,
they just send it directly on, but in a manner that says, these are some good suggestions that come,
Yeah.
not direction.
okay, just the context for this is,
Direction will come later.
he and the members of the board didn't quite know what we meant by skate scoot bike park, so an example would be helpful.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's great.
Is that a new term too?
Nope. I didn't make that up.
Well, it might be new in the last
I
10
think
years.
she made it up.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move, so we don't have an action out of Bird Park. I just wanted to let you know that our recommendations are flowing through. Winter classes.
So there was no motion.
There was no motion. We just clarified the process. The winter classes are out there. I do have a couple posters if there's other places you can give them, and we do have.
Was this going to be a mailer again, or not?
No, we didn't do a mailer, we just did it by so this is the first time we've done classes only using the email list, which has 100 and something people on it. And I posted it at the harbor, actually right by Hop Dogma, there's a table, and I taped one to that table because people put announces there. The press.
There's a table?
E.G. Beverage, it's right next to the door. E.G. Hardware, the post office inside, the post office outside, and it's posted here. And on Post Side Buzz has a link to it.
Yeah.
I had to
And
scroll
it's
down a long way to
posted
find it.
at,
Well, it's only because I have to refresh it. So I put it out when it first came out, and
Yeah.
I put it out through Facebook and
Yeah,
stuff
you're
like
probably
that.
going to have to keep
I
putting
put
them
it on
around.
next door twice.
Yeah, and I put it out on Nextdoor for the first day. I think we got a late start on the first day, because that's this weekend, we only got one sign up.
yeah.
And Barbara had put out a reminder of the bird walk, which is this Saturday, coming up Saturday.
And I posted it at New Leaf, at the Senior Center in Half Moon Bay, and where's the third place I posted it?
Wow.
The library
Wow.
in Half Moon Bay.
Just posting it up everywhere.
Did you send it to the review?
I sent it to the review, and the review put in their, if you sign up, you get a weekly newsletter for what's happening this week, and they have the bird walk in it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
I
Yep.
forwarded it to
And
somebody.
I've got some numbers for us.
Numbers.
We have, knitting is 0. Birds, the bird walk is 5 people. 2 people for your CPR. 0 for Rosen, 0 for the rug hooking. 7 for early residence walk. 2 for Quarry Park so far, and 4 for El Granada history.
And the History Association would like to post the 2 history walks on their website.
And
What's
so
the
that's
early residence? What'd you say? What is that?
It's
Matthews.
Oh,
Port, it's actually the port and early residence.
oh, there.
Mhm.
It's gonna be, that's.
The port, it's both, yeah. So we have a contact at the history committee?
I just got an email from the president asking me if she could, and I thought I'd ask you if you thought I should.
Absolutely,
If you guys should.
absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we haven't socialized outside of,
Yeah, I mean, that's
District
the
before.
question is.
Yeah.
but we've mailed, this is the first one, we've had classes that we have not mailed to 2,000 households, so.
The-
And it's only one page, right? Or is
The
it- is it-
poster's just one page. This is our
What about-
newsletter, which
Oh.
we only did by and it has the classes in it. But there was no really place to put these, to hand them out, they're here.
Yeah.
But there's not many places that let you just leave a stack and pick them up.
You can at the post office on that table at the window.
It goes straight into the trash.
Really?
I mean, they used to have the big table, and now they have the lockers there. And so there really isn't a place, there's usually 3 people there sorting out their mail, and it goes straight into the recycling.
Question on the knitting one? Was that brought to us by an outside knitting group, or was that us trying to engage the knitting committee? Because there is a knitting group that is very active in Half Moon Bay that I'm aware of.
There is, and actually, was it Patrick or Matthew brought that to my attention, and the lady who, Mary Beth McCrum,
Yep.
once is the instructor.
Okay.
And, yeah, and I would have thought that the instructor would have been,
Publicized it.
well, the instructors have all publicized their own venue
Okay.
and put it out to their communities. I would have thought that they would have been able to bring in,
The-
you know,
Yeah. they have established nights where they do knit-ins and things of that. That, so that
Exactly.
may already exist, and it may not be like where the classes would happen, so.
Yeah, well, and the classes for beginners too,
Right, okay.
so, yeah, and for adults, so that's kind
And
of.
she advertised like at Fingari and stuff like that?
I'm sure she did.
Yes.
That community's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're knitted.
I'm surrounded by the fiber artists.
Yeah.
I looked at went back and looked at the survey, and art classes were popular.
They were.
The CPR was
Yeah,
popular,
so-
and I think actually your next door message that said, "This is free, paid for by
Yes,
GCSD," that
yes.
you put up yesterday or
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
hopefully will
I put
generate more.
I put that up though, right when the catalog got out before. So this is the second time it's been on Nextdoor.
I put one on next door the other day when
Uh-huh.
you flagged me, that just said, "These are the things coming this week." That
They
one's
flagged
free.
you. They flagged you.
No, Claudia said, we don't have any numbers, can you put it back on next door?
Oh, good.
While she was disabled, so I put it up again and with highlighted which ones were coming. in.
I have permission to post that on the Granada PTO.
Oh, good.
Yes. I especially went and asked for permission if I could promote these things, and they said, please do. So
Okay.
Okay.
I've been bombarding them with the Coastside Mountain Biker stuff, so maybe I'll dilute it with a little bit of this.
Yeah.
I wrote
The road booking for kids.
I wrote
There's
the-
no after-school program for the 8 to 11-year-old
Yeah.
group.
So
You can grab these, I have a PDF of like this much of it, because my scanner can't scan legal size, so it's only scanned.
if it's online, you can capture it.
Oh, can't you scan it with like a cam scanner?
Yeah.
Well, if it's online, you can just
I mean, I
save it
can,
as
I can even do that for you. I'm like,
Oh, I have the legal size PDF, yes. You know, it was posting on Nextdoor. Posting on Nextdoor, you can't post a PDF, it has to be a photo.
Right.
So I
For
did,
that, I had to save it as a photo.
see, the way Coastside Buzz works is I can share, like the whole newsletter, which is what I did, but I chose a picture of the adaptive cycling. And I think I did a $5 ad just to El Granada, just to El Granada. And I got 1,493 people reached, so that means they saw the picture. I had 27 links, click links. So that means 27 people actually clicked that link to go look at the newsletter.
That might have been me.
All 17. So you did it 17 times?
Okay, I will forward you the PDF.
Please do. Yeah, I can post that.
So is there
I checked with the
anything
school
else?
to see if we could post at EG school, because Matthew had suggested
I've
that.
already checked, and they will not allow any posting that hasn't been approved by the.
District,
the
And it's gotta be
district
bilingual.
board.
and it's gotta be in Spanish as well as
Yeah.
English.
Yeah. So,
I'll send you the poster tonight, Rick. PTO is great.
PTO.
And if anybody wants some of, I'll just leave these.
Well, you guys want any?
This room.
That's the newsletter.
You don't use paper.
And I'm doing my research for the history for the birding walk, because I'm gonna throw in some history. Did you know there were 2 tidal waves, not just one?
No.
There were 2 tsunamis.
1949, and what's the other one?
I don't remember the date offhand, but I've been doing my research.
Excellent.
Anybody?
how big was it?
Down there?
One
I'm
was
good,
there
thank you.
together, but both of them took boats out of the harbor. No one was
Mhm.
really hurt in either one,
Yeah.
but it did a lot of, one of them did a lot of property damage. So, kind of cool.
Tidal waves / tsunamis.
Yeah.
Well, not
I've seen the
surprising that
pictures
the
of
walks
the-
are getting, I'm sorry.
Oh, as I say, I've seen pictures of boats sitting up by, I guess by where Barbara's is, or.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, Barbara.
The other thing I'm trying to find
Pretty
out is
impressive.
those ruins, those foundations just on the west side of the airport.
Yes.
It looks, I had heard that they might have been a dairy, but I'm looking at the historic photos. There was actually a Japanese farmer that had a farm there for a while, but as near as I can tell, it was farms. It was never a dairy. So I'm looking for confirmation of that, but, there's some foundations.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And there's a reservoir at the north end there
Mhm.
that I think might have been for the military when they built the airport, because they had a bunch of stuff there. So it's just kind of interesting to find out more about why these things were there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to these.
But Donna's an amazing birder. She did this walk a while ago, and we saw 50 different species of birds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's not surprising the walks, and I mean, in our survey, in our experience, get the most attendance, and in the survey, probably got the most energy.
So for the summer, think about, anyone else want to
Birds?
do a walk? No, let's do
Oh.
different kinds of walks. Let's do one walk a month. Let's make the GCSD walks, one a month.
It does help us build our brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're easy, I think.
You said it's usually 90 minutes, 2 hours, and
Easy.
It's easy.
I will work, I'll try to think of something.
I'm so sorry.
we'll walk through
I think
the
I will
Hill
do the-
Project Farms.
Brewery tours.
There you go. Well,
I keep suggesting that.
You do. One of these days it's going to stick. And it will be beer.
GCSD can
So we could do.
sponsor.
you just made me think of something.
I saw
We could do a
birds.
restaurant one in the afternoon.
I went on a walk in Chicago that was it was a restaurant, a tea shop, and ended at a bar. But you could do Hop Dogma to the new
Yeah.
barbecue place.
Yeah,
Go by
that
the beverage
breakwater.
store and ended the press or something, so. Basically, food and drink of El Granada and do a crawl.
The food
Yeah,
and culture.
there-
The food and culture tour.
Yeah.
You could do the distillery, you could do the wine tasting place. I mean, hey,
Yes,
let's get inventive on our walks, once a month, second Saturday.
I think the food and drink of Granada is an interesting
I think
idea.
Kind of,
That's
yeah,
an
like
excellent
a
idea.
local tour of the local establishment for the locals,
Yeah,
right? I mean, not everyone's been
And what's
everywhere.
more, if you have a couple of these establishments, we can make enough money from their sponsorship so we can print the newsletter and send it out by mail. Because our demographic in this area, as much as I can do with Facebook, there's a lot of people who like paper, you know?
yeah, although,
Tree
when the survey was landing mailboxes, I stood in front of the window of the post office, like, waving at the people who were sitting at that table, sorting their mail and tossing it into the QR code. We still got 500 back, so. Okay, I'm gonna,
But maybe the trick too is for us to build our email list more.
yes, I
I
mean,
agree.
we put it actually on this survey, and if you'd like more information, we got 509 surveys back, but only 10% of them gave us their email address. And that was really disappointing. So people they don't want to get the emails, but they'll complain they never hear about things. And I don't know what to do
Yeah.
about that.
So when I'm at the top lock jumper, which we should probably think about doing, again in the spring,
Yeah.
I'll make a better effort of collecting the emails there. I don't think I really made enough.
Yeah, you want to hear whenever we do this?
Yeah,
Give us
yeah.
your email.
Although I think it's definitely a generational thing, some people don't like a gang of mails, but the younger people, they just click over if they don't like it,
Yeah.
And we do have a spot on the waiver now for an email, right? So
Yeah.
that we did, do we now? We should double check that.
Double check on the waiver form that says, yeah, if you want park emails, sign
And
up here.
I'm
I
gonna
think we
use
did
staff
add it.
waivers for Friday, Saturday.
I think we did add it. And whenever somebody says something about on Nextdoor that they don't understand GCSD or they're confused, I try to take that opportunity in a comment to say, and if you want more information, send your email to info@granada.ca.
I've gotten one email from any community person, how we say, go to.
Send it to
More
you.
information.
To me, nothing, zero.
And it was my husband,
I had an idea I thought of quite a while ago. Why are we not leveraging the spaces we have to post these things? There should be a bulletin board on the side of the skate ramp that we can post this on. Why is our website and our information not on the side of that skate ramp? And this would give us another opportunity at Rogue One to post these things as well.
That is a fantastic idea.
If we're going to be supporting the community and the recreation activities, the people that are there need to know who's paying for this and why it's here. And
that-
they should be able to reach out to us for compliments or comments or concerns.
We have that Heron poster that's been sort of sadly sagging outside the post office for a year. And it only bothers me because it says, if you want to be on the list, go to info@. But it
Mailing.
doesn't say send your email you send your address and email to info@.
You don't want to just blanket send your email address because people that's a commodity. People don't want to give that up. We have to give them something in return.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't give out my email address.
No, I
for
think
nothing.
putting a sign on the side of a permanent sign on the side of the
yeah, I mean, there's a
skateboard is great
case
idea.
there. I mean, we can put a glass case on the side of that or some sort of plexiglass case that has these classes that would give us an opportunity.
Okay, Claudia,
Great idea.
on your to-do list.
Yes.
Yes, yes, okay.
On your to-do list, tastefully, so it doesn't take away from the memorial on the side, so maybe on the other side.
The other side,
Yeah.
turns out there's
But yeah,
multiple
good
sides.
posting side,
Yeah.
or the art.
Okay.
All right,
Just don't put it underneath.
that was the last thing. Oh, the next meeting date we have set for May 4th. Pat is going to be leading walking tours in Croatia on that date. And he asked if we could move it back 1 week to Monday, April 27th.
Wow.
Yeah, as far as I know.
There's nothing on the calendar.
So that's a Monday, the
Monday.
Monday after that?
It's the Monday before the one we had
The,
planned.
the only concern, I mean, we moved it to Mondays, but then I realized the agenda minutes, you can't really, they're not published
You know what, Delia
Or the
Delia said
agenda.
we have to do them 3 days ahead, so she said do it
3
Friday.
business days?
But I
Yes.
think let's do it 3 business days.
I mean, that makes more sense,
Yeah.
because I wanted to post them
I
ahead
think
of
the Brown
time.
Act is 72 hours, so that's why she said do it Friday.
Uh,
But we actually were ready earlier.
Yeah.
You
So-
can post it early.
We can post it
There's no rule
early.
that says you have to wait till the last minute.
I know,
that's-
it bugs me, they should give me a full week in my,
I'm
because I
happy
can't
to
put
do
them
it
up through my
full week
stuff.
ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we'll make our protocol that we post it the Monday before the Monday meeting. Okay, so we're gonna change that date to Monday, April 27th
Okay.
from May 4th.
Okay.
And I'll send you an email
My mom's
reminder for your
birthday.
calendars. Is it?
happy birthday.
Well, that night.
Yeah.
That's a Saturday meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Send you. Okay, with that, we are adjourned at 9:14.
Okay.
Discussion.